Chapter 1791. Chapter 1791. Chapter 1791. Soul-devouring insect. The Thunder Emperor was furious. The cultivators from the Thunder Despair realm all stared at Ning-Chi with sharp gazes. There were demons, humans, and various foreign races. A white fox was sitting on the shoulder of a member of the giant spirit clan. Her attention wasn't on Ning-Chi, but a sliver of her divine sense fell on Hu Qing, who was standing next to Wang Lin and his wife. So this little fox is here. After killing her, my granddaughter's position as the holy fox will be at ease. That thing should also be with her. He he he, this grand gamble has not been in vain after all. Is your son called Little Thunder Emperor? If so, then I was the one who killed him. Ning-Chi smiled faintly at the Thunder Sovereign. Thunder Emperor, don't fall for his trap. This kid's cultivation is only at the 5 Tribulation Creator realm. How could he possibly kill the Little Thunder Emperor? Venerable Hidden Immortal said coldly. The Thunder Sovereign was slightly startled, and his eyes immediately cleared up a little. He used his divine will to size up Ning-Chi hundreds of times, confirming that he was only a 5 Tribulation Creator. How could an ordinary 5 Tribulation Creator dare to be so arrogant in front of the two of them? There wasn't even a trace of respect in his words? Bug player, if you sneak around like this again, I won't go easy on you. Ning-Chi suddenly reached out and grabbed a black bug from the back of his head. This bug was about the size of a fist, and when Ning-Chi grabbed it, it let out a shrill screech. The sound made all the nearby masters of creation below the 6th Tribulation feel a little dizzy. It wasn't the sound wave that made them dizzy, but their divine souls seemed to be heavily injured after hearing the screech. Soul-devouring insects? Granny Long's face showed a trace of shock. I didn't expect that there would be such bugs in this world. Sakia Thoughtless was also shocked. Marshal Granduncle, what is a soul-devouring insect? In the distance, Sakia Rui looked at Sakia Huijing with some doubt. They had never heard of this kind of insect before, but it must be extraordinary for Grandma Long and the others to be shocked. Legend has it that a long time ago, when the sky was broken, many strange insects fell from the sky. These insects weren't very aggressive, but they had superhuman souls. Many cultivators were parasitized by them and their bodies were taken away. These insects inherited the cultivators' memories. During that era, people didn't know if the beings they were talking to were real humans or puppets that had been taken away by the soul-devouring insect. Therefore, the central mainland experienced an extremely terrifying catastrophe that time. Less than 1 in 10 cultivators survived, and they were almost wiped out. In the end, the soul-devouring worms were completely destroyed. This matter was recorded in a few words in the 5 ancient histories of the 9 prefectures of the 9 prefectures' ancient temple. As for how the soul-devouring worms were destroyed, it was not written in detail. Sakia Huijing said with a solemn expression. If this insect was really a soul-devouring worm, it meant that the soul-devouring worms had never been destroyed. Among the human cultivators and even the foreign race cultivators, there might be many descendants of the soul-devouring worms that were hiding in the dark, waiting for an opportunity to conquer the world again. Thinking of this, Sakia Huijing's face turned pale. When everyone heard Sakia Huijing's explanation, a trace of shock flashed in their eyes. They couldn't believe that in a certain era, human cultivators were almost wiped out because of a type of insect. To them, this was like a fantasy story. Clack! Ning-Chi directly crushed the black insect in his hand. It didn't die like a real insect, but turned into black smoke and dissipated. There was a trace of a soul in it. Interesting. You're actually living in the form of a divine soul. Ning-Chi's eyes revealed a trace of curiosity. Before he crushed the soul-devouring worm, there were no signs that it was in the form of a soul. But after he crushed it, it was very obvious. Only when a soul died would it dissipate like smoke. Perfected Hidden Immortal's expression suddenly changed, and he looked at Ning-Chi in disbelief. But very quickly, His expression returned to calmness, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Interesting. Even an 8 tribulation master of creation can't defend against this soul-devouring worm of mine. I didn't expect you, a mere 5 tribulation master of creation, to be able to detect its existence. When the Thunder Emperor heard this, his eyes gradually became serious. Perfected hidden immortals' methods were very sinister. His enemies often died without knowing how they died. Even when they died, they didn't know how they died or when they died. Right now, Ning Beixian could detect his little trick. This was enough to prove that this person's cultivation was probably not weaker than Sun Yan's. In that case, Sun Yan was really dead? And he died at his hands? Soul-devouring worm? Grandmother Long and the rest squinted their eyes. Perfected hidden immortal caught a soul-devouring worm and refined it into a worm. Suspicion flashed in Sakya Huijing's eyes. Not only can I detect its existence, but I also know that it is just a wisp of your soul that was split from your body. Don't you think so? Soul-devouring worm that pretended to be a human. Ning Qi looked at Perfected Hidden Immortal calmly. Perfected Hidden Immortal was a soul-devouring worm? Not only did the Thunder Emperor's expression change, even half of the subordinates behind Perfected Hidden Immortal were shocked. Ning Beixian said that Perfected Hidden Immortal was a soul-devouring worm. This, Grandmother Long and the rest were shocked and in disbelief. The soul-devouring worm has reappeared. No, it should be said that the soul-devouring worm has been spying on us humans from the beginning. Sakya Huijing's face twitched a few times. Sakya Rui, who was standing beside her, realized that his Uncle Master's palm seemed to be trembling slightly. Is the soul-devouring worm really so scary? Even Uncle Master is so afraid of it. Sakya Rui was shocked. The Thunder Emperor quietly distanced himself from Perfected Hidden Immortal. He had originally planned to suppress Ning Qi directly and avenge the young Thunder Emperor, but in the current situation, he felt that there were some things that needed to be clarified. The soul-devouring worm was not only a great enemy of the human race, but it was also a nightmare to other races. It was just that so much time had passed that many cultivators did not know what had happened in the past. At this moment, all the details of Perfected Hidden Immortal were revealed to Ning Qi in the Attributes panel, including his true identity. This was a big worm. Sir, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. I have cultivated the Gu technique for so many years, but in your words, I am a worm? What a joke. Perfected Hidden Immortal was silent for a while, then looked at Ning Qi and let out a cold laugh. The few cultivators behind him, who exuded the aura of the 8 calamities Master of Creation, looked at each other and suddenly stood up. Eldest senior brother, this person humiliated you in public. Let us go and kill him. Chapter 1792. A bug. Everyone's eyes immediately focused on those few figures. The Thunder Emperor's eyes flashed. He could take advantage of this opportunity to see how strong Ning Qi was. If he was only strong in appearance, he didn't mind killing Ning Qi first to avenge his son. After that, he would tell the Hidden Immortal about the soul-devouring bugs. They're just small bugs. Looks like Yuan Venerate Heavenly Gu is the Bug King. The corners of Ning Qi's mouth curled up slightly as he muttered to himself. This sentence made the Tibetan Immortal Perfected being even more murderous. The other cultivators seemed to be deep in thought as their expressions gradually turned to one of fear. Go to hell! The 8 tribulation creators roared, and from their open mouths, a swarm of insects flew out. These insects were burning with a pale green flame, and wherever they passed, the void shattered and burned, leaving behind long green trails. What powerful bugs! Any one of them could kill me! Sakya Huijing's eyes flashed with a trace of horror. The methods of these cultivators who cultivated the art of venomous insects were indeed terrifying. Even an 8 tribulation creator would be flustered when facing the sudden attack of this swarm of venomous insects, or even suffer heavy injuries. The flames on these bugs are a little strange. Grandmother Long and the others looked at the green flaming insects with solemn expressions. Even they felt a trace of danger from these flames. Immortal flames? This means that the soul-devouring bugs have something to do with the immortal continent. Ning Chi's eyes flickered slightly, and he struck out with his palm. 9 flame deluo palm. 9 types of immortal flames appeared out of nowhere and engulfed the bugs and the 3 8 tribulation creators in an instant. Hiss! The bugs let out mournful cries as the green immortal flames on their bodies were instantly defeated by the combination of 9 immortal flames. The immortal flames landed on their bodies and burned them to ashes. Arg! The 3 8 tribulation creators let out miserable screams as their skin melted like candles, peeling away to reveal their bones and internal organs. Everyone was shocked to find that their internal organs were actually made up of small worms. These worms were of different shapes and sizes, but the only thing they had in common was that they were disgusting. Seeing this, the cultivators from the extremity of thunder could not help but frown. This was also the first time many cultivators from the extremity of Tao scripture had seen such a scene. They subconsciously swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Soon, the 3 masters of creation were also burned to ashes by the immortal flames. However, they didn't disappear completely. Instead, the 3-headed soul-devouring bugs appeared where they were. GGG. The 3-headed soul-devouring bug was confused at first, but when it regained its senses, it flew to the front of enlightened Master Hidden Immortal and screamed. Everyone could not understand what it was calling, but they could be sure that the 3 cultivators who looked like humans were, in fact, puppets that were parasitized by the soul-devouring bugs. "You're still saying you're not a big bug?" Ning Chi said with a faint smile. "Immortal Hidden Immortal, are you really a soul-devouring bug?" The Thunder Sovereign's face turned solemn. All the cultivators who had heard about the origin of the soul-devouring bugs were shocked and fearful as they turned to look at Immortal Hidden Immortal. If Immortal Hidden Immortal is really a soul-devouring bug, then Yuan Venerate Tianyu must be the soul-devouring bug king. "I'm afraid this world is not going to be peaceful anymore," Grandma Long muttered to herself. "This news must be sent back." Sakya Thoughtless had a solemn look on his face. In the distance, Xiao Wuya and the others also had ugly expressions on their faces. After learning about the origin of the soul-devouring bugs from Sakya Huijing, they felt a tinge of fear. "Uncle Master, could it be that Immortal Hidden Immortal?" Sakya Rui stammered. "Yes, it's possible." Sakya Huijing nodded. Everyone suddenly felt a chill in their hearts. Immortal Hidden Immortal looked at the 3-headed soul-devouring bug indifferently. Finally, his gaze swept across the Thunder Sovereign and the others before landing on Ning Chi. He suddenly burst into laughter. "That's right, I am indeed a soul-devouring bug. You bunch of ants are lucky enough to know my identity today. It's a great blessing. Whether he admitted it or not, as long as someone was still alive, today's news would definitely spread. Therefore, for Immortal Hidden Immortal, the outcome would be the same regardless of whether he admitted it or not." Hiss! Many cultivators gasped. They hadn't expected Immortal Hidden Immortal to admit it himself. The Thunder Sovereign's expression became even more solemn. A race like the soul-devouring bug, that relied on parasitism to survive, was a great enemy of all races. "You bunch of lowly ants. Since you know that I am from the soul-devouring clan, why aren't you kneeling and kowtowing?" Immortal Hidden Immortal smiled. "What a joke! How can a bug feel superior?" Ning Chi laughed. "A bug? Ha 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 ha!" Reverend Hidden Immortal threw his head back and laughed. Finally, he stopped laughing and looked at Ning Chi fiercely. "My Spirit Eater clan came from the continent of the Immortals. Every generation can inherit the memories of the previous generation. Don't you ants dream of leaving this place one day and going to the continent of the Immortals? I am an immortal from the Immortal Continent." The soul-devouring bug actually came from the Immortal Continent? The cultivators were shocked and in disbelief. Even the Thunder Sovereign revealed a trace of shock as he looked at Immortal Hidden Immortal. This news was too shocking. All this time, the Immortal Continent was just a legend. Even someone as strong as Dao Yen, Immortal Emperor, had yet to leave this place. If Immortal Hidden Immortal was not bragging, didn't that prove that the illusory Immortal Continent really existed? If the Immortal Continent really exists, doesn't that mean that Buddha also exists? Sakya thoughtless muttered to himself. He had been cultivating Buddhism for countless years. In the eyes of mortals, his methods were divine. However, he was still far from the realm where the great Buddha in the Buddhist scriptures could destroy the stars with a close eye. In the 9 Rakshasa ancient temple, there was a group of monks who believed that there was Buddha in the world, and there was a group of monks who thought that they were Buddha. Coincidentally, Sakya Thoughtless was the latter. The news of the hidden immortal Taoist had caused a faint crack in his Buddhist heart. No, no. Ning Qi waved his hand. Even if you come from the immortal continent, that's only your ancestor. According to what you said, you inherited the memories of the previous generation, but that doesn't mean you're an immortal. You might be a bug that the immortals of the immortal continent can kill with one stomp. I didn't want to show my true form, but now you're lucky enough to see my true form. Anger flashed through Immortal Hidden Immortal's eyes. As he spoke, the top of his head suddenly opened, and a bunch of bugs whizzed out like a black tornado. When all the bugs flew out, they suddenly scattered. Some attacked the cultivators in the great ruins, some attacked the cultivators behind the Thunder Sovereign, and most of them went for Ning Qi. Today, everyone here, except for my soul-devouring clan, must die. Immortal Hidden Immortal let out a sinister laugh. You said you came from the immortal continent and have the memories of the immortal continent. Then, do you recognize me? Chapter 1793. Chapter 1793. Chapter 1793. You think you're invincible? Immortal Qi? You? Reverend Hidden Immortal stared at Ning Qi with a dumbfounded expression. A hint of disbelief appeared in his eyes. At that moment, the terrifying presence spreading out from Ning Qi's body was both familiar and unfamiliar to him. He had only inherited his memories, but ever since he was born, he had been in the central continent. He had never returned to the legendary homeland of the spirit devourers, the land of the immortals. But right now, the immortal Qi on his body was so thick that it formed layers upon layers of celestial mountains and jade palaces. This made the hidden immortal, who had always been arrogant and self-proclaimed to be an immortal, extremely shocked. At this very moment, the surrounding cultivators who were attacked by the soul-devouring beetles had already started to fight back. Perhaps it was because Taoist Hidden Immortal was afraid of the Thunder Sovereign. The soul-devouring beetles did not go after him. However, the subordinates behind him were entangled with the soul-devouring beetles. Some of them had already had their souls devoured by the soul-devouring beetles and their bodies taken away. The Thunder Sovereign looked at this scene coldly, but did not make a move. Instead, he looked at Enlightened Master Hidden Immortal and Ning Qi with a hint of hesitation. Thunder Sovereign, our plan this time is enough for you to break through to the 9 Tribulation Creator. If we let this kid spoil it, the opportunity will be gone. You and I will suppress this kid. Enlightened Master Hidden Immortal suddenly said to the Thunder Sovereign. What a strong body, what a terrifying aura. This kid has an extraordinary bloodline. If we can suppress this body and use the heavenly lightning to refine a 9 Tribulation Thunder Corpse, then I can possess it. A hint of greed flashed in the Thunder Sovereign's eyes. He had planned to put this plan on hold. After all, Enlightened Master Hidden Immortal was a soul-eater bug. If he cooperated with him, his soul might be devoured at any time. But when the Thunder Sovereign saw Ning Qi's immortal emperor form, he could no longer suppress the greed in his heart. Reverse reincarnation, emptiness of all ages. Boom! Before the Thunder Sovereign could react, Ning Qi's fist had already landed on his body. Divine grace of the immortal tribe. The power that could distort time and space made the Thunder Sovereign furious. His body started to change at a speed visible to the naked eye in an instant. His body turned into a lifeless corpse. There were many wounds on his body, and his flesh and blood had withered. His aura had weakened by countless times, and he was only at the level of a first tribulation creator. Is this his real body? A corpse? A look of ridicule flashed past Ning Qi's eyes. He then ignored the Thunder Emperor and slashed towards the shocked Reverend Hidden Immortal. The Thunder Sovereign was defeated? The cultivator of the Extremity Thunder Realm, who was fighting with the soul-devouring bugs, watched in disbelief as Ning Qi's punch caused the Thunder Emperor to revert to his original state and turn him into a corpse. The top powerhouse of the Extremity Thunder Realm, the direct disciple of Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse, had actually been defeated by a single punch? What kind of method was this? When the cultivators of the Great Ruins saw this, their eyes were filled with ecstasy. Their battle intent surged into the sky as they let out furious roars and killed the soul-devouring worms in front of them. The Thunder Sovereign has been defeated. Sakya Thoughtless let out an angry roar. He and Grandma Long protected the villagers of Cloud Rising Village while killing the soul-devouring worms in front of them. They didn't care if the other cultivators died or were injured, but if the villagers suffered too many casualties, they wouldn't have the confidence to withstand Ning Qi's anger. Furthermore, Grandma Long had a deal with Ning Qi before, so she immediately appeared beside Wang Lin and the others to help them get rid of the soul-devouring worms. Is he really an immortal from the mainland of the Celestial Tribe? The more the Reverend Hidden Immortal fought, the more shocked he became. His opponent had the cultivation of a fifth tribulation creator, but he couldn't even fight back. The blade in his hand was extraordinarily sharp. He took out several defensive treasures, but they were all easily cut through. In less than a dozen breaths, the Reverend Hidden Immortal's limbs had been cut off. Your cultivation is even stronger than the Thunder Sovereign's. No wonder you are an immortal from the mainland of the Celestial Tribe. The corners of Ning Qi's mouth curled up. The Reverend Hidden Immortal was infuriated when he heard these sarcastic words. He let out a hiss and his body suddenly split into pieces. When he reappeared, he was a soul-devouring worm that was countless times larger. His aura had more than doubled. At this moment, the Reverend Hidden Immortal's strength was much stronger than the Thunder Sovereign's. Although he still couldn't compare to a ninth tribulation creator, his combat power was probably comparable to Ning Qi's before he became a fifth tribulation creator. He was infinitely close to becoming a ninth tribulation creator. I haven't shown my true form in a long time. This feels really good. Ning Beixian, I don't care if you are from the mainland of the Celestial Tribe. Today you will die by my hand. I won't stand on ceremony and enjoy your body. If you had appeared outside of the perilous situation, I'm afraid you would have been taken by the Yuan Venerate first. Even the heavens are on my side. The Reverend Hidden Immortal let out a burst of laughter. Do you think you are invincible right now? Ning Qi frowned. Am I wrong? I admit that your combat power is very strong, even stronger than the Thunder Sovereign. However, after I reveal my true form, my combat power is infinitely close to that of a ninth tribulation creator. No matter how strong you are no match for me. Just be obedient and be used by me. The Reverend Hidden Immortal laughed sinisterly. A blade gleam flew straight through the Reverend Hidden Immortal's skull and penetrated his body. The Reverend Hidden Immortal's worm face seemed to show a trace of shock. Then, his worm body was split in half. However, he didn't die just like that. The two halves of his worm body fused again. Another blade gleam flashed past. The Reverend Hidden Immortal was cut in half again. Damn it! He let out a roar of shock and anger. However, Ning Qi was unmoved. He brandished his blade frantically and slashed at the Reverend Hidden Immortal again and again. The health bar above his head was decreasing at a speed visible to the naked eye. It's just 5 yuan of health, not 500 yuan. Do you really think you are invincible? A trace of mockery flashed in Ning Qi's eyes. After the Reverend Hidden Immortal returned to his worm form, his health points skyrocketed several times. Originally, his health points were only 1 yuan, which was less than Ning Qi's 2 yuan. After transforming into an adult worm, his health points had increased to 5 yuan, which was a full 5 times increase. Coupled with his soaring combat power, this should be the reason why the Reverend Hidden Immortal was so arrogant just now. How is this possible? The Reverend Hidden Immortal was continuously cut in half and then healed. This process repeated over and over again. There was no chance for him to fight back. He was shocked and angry. At this time, his underlings saw this and rushed toward Ning Qi fearlessly. They seemed to want to use their own lives to find an opportunity for the Reverend Hidden Immortal to fight back. Chapter 1794. The battle has ended. They are all soul-devouring worms. The cultivators of Daozong Despairs were shocked to see the cultivators die at Ning Qi's hands and transform into the true form of the soul-devouring worms. They had never imagined that they would stay with the soul-devouring worms for so long. At the same time, the scene of the Hidden Immortal Perfected being slashed by Ning Qi shocked the surrounding cultivators. The Thunder Emperor had been killed with one punch and the Hidden Immortal Perfected had been crushed. Ning Beishuan's combat power had reached such a terrifying level. Hidden Immortal Perfected, your life points don't seem to be enough. Ning Qi smiled, but he didn't stop slashing. The health bar above the Hidden Immortal Perfected's head was almost empty. When he was cut into a few pieces by Ning Qi, his healing speed became slower and slower. The Hidden Immortal Taoist let out a strange cry. His eyes gradually turned red. Not long after, when his health bar reached the bottom, accompanied by a despairing hiss, the Hidden Immortal Taoist's insect body was like a weathered sand sculpture, dissipating in the world. Yuan Venerate will not let you off. Before he died, the Hidden Immortal Perfected calmed down and stared at Ning Qi. My memories will be passed on to the next generation, so I will not die. The next time we meet, you will be of the same race as me. With a loud bang, he completely dissipated. At the same time, after obtaining the battle points of the Thunder Sovereign and the Hidden Immortal Taoist, Ning Qi's name was already ranked first in the Perilous Death Realm's battle points ranking. Furthermore, his battle points alone were more than the top 10 cultivators of the other 2 Perilous Death Realms combined. This meant that in this grand gamble, if there were no accidents, the Perilous Death Realm would win first place. The Hidden Immortal Perfected is also dead. Our Desperate Death Realms won first place. Following the death of Hidden Immortal Taoist, all the soul-devouring bugs in Great Ruins vanished, and all the cultivators stopped in bewilderment. When they raised their heads, they saw Ning Qi's name hanging high up on the first place of the battle points board. The cultivators in Great Ruins instantly let out a burst of violent cheers, unable to contain their joy. The surviving cultivators of the Desperate Thunder Realms and the Desperate Death Realms looked at the scene in despair. Many of them immediately turned to flee. The Thunder Emperor and the Hidden Immortal Perfected were dead. How could they have the courage to stay? Big brother, save me! At that moment, Hu Chengzi was being grabbed by a figure and was flying into the distance. Seeing this, Ning Qi's body moved slightly and he appeared in front of the figure. Ning Beixian, she's a traitor of the Sky Fox clan. Yu Pu. Fresh blood spurted from the severed neck, and the fox's head fell to the ground. That was close. Hu Chengzi patted his chest in fear. Kill them, Ning Qi said faintly. His voice reverberated throughout the entire Great Ruins under the surge of immortal spirit qi. With Grandmother Long and Sakya thoughtless in the lead, they led the desperate cultivators of death, who were overflowing with fighting spirit to chase after the two cultivators. Ning Qi's 90,000-mile flash allowed him to take the heads of the top 50 existences on the power rankings in every second. It didn't take long for all the 8 Tribulation creators to die in Ning Qi's hands. Next, it was the 7 Tribulation creators' turn. The cultivators who were on the brink of death were like a sharp blade that swept through the surroundings, taking away hordes of lives. Ning Qi realized that after these people died, a blue light would rush into the sky from their bodies. It seemed to be absorbed by the mysterious Desperate Realm Divine Stone. At the same time, the cultivators who were hiding all over the Desperate Death realms walked out and looked at the battle points list in disbelief. Ning Beixian got first place? The names of the Thunder Emperor and the hidden Immortal Perfected Immortal have disappeared. Could they be dead? How is that possible? The grand gamble this time around is truly hard to fathom. Our Despair of Death's battle point is actually far ahead of the other 2 Despair realms? Could it be fake? How can the battle points list be fake? I think this is a rare opportunity. We don't need to hide anymore. Let's do it, a middle-aged cultivator said faintly. The others hesitated for a moment before nodding. When the others saw this, they only hesitated for a moment before nodding. They were all cultivators ranked in the top 50 on the battle strength ranking of the perilous situation. The middle-aged cultivator was ranked second on the battle strength ranking. Now that the situation had turned for the better, they didn't have to worry too much anymore. Besides, these cultivators were eager to see what had happened inside the perilous situation battlefield. Why would the Thunder Emperor and Master Hidden Immortal be removed from the battle strength ranking all of a sudden? If they were really killed by Ning Beixian, the news would surely shake the Central Continent, the 9 Desolations, and the 3 Great Desolations. 1 month later, in the Impasse battlefield, there were not many cultivators left in the Thunder Impasse and the Dao Treasury Impasse. Most of them had been killed by Granny Long and the others. Other than personally killing the subordinates of the Thunder Emperor and Master Hidden Immortal in the Great Ruins, Ning Qi didn't really make a move. This was because the cultivators in the Dao Treasury Impasse had basically all been killed by the Thunder Emperor and his subordinates, obtaining a large amount of battle points. Ning Qi then killed the Thunder Emperor and Master Hidden Immortal, inheriting this amount of battle points. The rest of the small fry's battle points were insignificant in comparison. Another month passed. Including the first month, 3 months had passed in the Impasse battlefield. Everyone felt the scenery in front of them change. Then, they realized that they had returned to the perilous situation of death. The place where they were standing was exactly the same as before they entered the Impasse battlefield. Many cultivators heaved a sigh of relief. Being able to return alive from the Impasse battlefield was like hitting the jackpot. If it hadn't been for Ning Qi, they would have been sacrificed by the Thunder Emperor, Master Hidden Immortal, and Divine Sun Yen. Not many cultivators returned from the Thunder Perilous Realm and the Daozong Perilous Realm alive. Everyone had a look of horror on their faces. Many cultivators planned to leave the Perilous Realm to inform Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse and Yuan Venerate Heavenly Gu of the terrifying things that had happened in the Perilous Realm battlefield. After all, the Thunder Emperor and the Hidden Immortal Venerate had both died. If they didn't inform them, they would be implicated. Cloud Rising Village. The sudden appearance of Ning Qi and the others was immediately noticed by the villagers of Cloud Rising Village. They ran over in surprise, but they looked a little sad when they saw that hundreds of people were missing. Beixian. The sacred concubine flew over and heaved a sigh of relief when she saw that Ning Qi, Wang Lin, his wife, and Ning Zi were all safe and sound. Why are there so many people missing? Fang Shu and Fang Qin were a little puzzled. They rebelled and died at the hands of the cultivators of the Dao Treasury Impasse battlefield. Zhang Qinghua said faintly. Many villagers echoed Zhang Qinghua's words and vividly described how the group of villagers had surrendered under the threat of Divine Sun Yen. When the nearby villagers heard this, they came to a sudden realization. Then, they condemned the group of cultivators who had rebelled. Chapter 1795. Scram for me. That's the impassable God stone. Some cultivators excitedly looked at the sapphire in the sky. Their eyes were filled with longing. Every time the gambling war ended, the impassable God stone would appear. At that time, the cultivators who participated in the gambling war would have the right to cultivate under the impassable God stone. However, the number of people could not exceed 500. If the number exceeded this number, the impassable God stone would disappear, so the number was controlled by Sun Yin and the others. So this is the impassable God stone. Ning Qi's eyes moved slightly. He felt a faint pressure from this incomparably large sapphire, as if it contained enough power to kill him. No wonder Little Six was defeated by the impassable God stone with one blow. The third step cultivator who had set up this place was most likely a celestial from the Celestial clan, just as Little Six had guessed. The size of the impassable God stone this time seems to be more than 10 times larger than before. Some cultivators who had stayed in the despair realm for countless years muttered to themselves. These masters of creation who had returned to Cloud Rise Village were ecstatic when they saw the impassable God stone appear, and it was 10 times larger than before. This meant that the gift from the impassable God stone would be very terrifying. Because of the child in her stomach, Cold Sky had deliberately suppressed her cultivation level, so she couldn't go under the impassable God stone to receive the gift. Ning Qi calculated the number of people, including Wang Lin and his wife, Little Yerzhua Ling Fong Qin, Fong Shu, Hu Qing, and the Masters of Creation who had followed him to the Despair Realm. There were only about 400 people. Under everyone's expectant gazes, Ning Qi picked out Law Phase cultivators who were about the same level as Li Xianxian to make a total of 485 people. Ning Qi left the remaining 15 spots for Grandma Long and the others. They had contributed a lot to the Despair Realm, so they couldn't leave everyone alive. The impassable God stone has appeared. Not only did our Despair Realm get first place, but we also killed almost all the cultivators in the Despair Realm of Thunder and the Tao Scripture Realm. Sure enough, the impassable God stone this time is more than 10 times larger than before. The gift this time is no small matter. The three of us might have a chance to break through our current shackles. After Grandma Long and the others returned to the 7 sect valleys, they immediately gathered together and looked at the giant sapphire in the sky. There are a total of 500 places. How many people should we bring this time? An old woman from the Yin Yang sect said hesitantly. Ning Beixian has a cloud rising village under his command. I'm afraid most of the spots will be taken by him. But with his temper, it's still possible for him to leave a spot for us three. If we're lucky, there might be a few spots left. Some of the top 50 on the combat power ranking haven't shown up yet. They're either dead or alive. They'll definitely fight for those spots. I think it'll be enough if we each bring one person with us. Granny Long thought for a while and said. Sakya thoughtless nodded. He had no objections. Patriarchs, may I know where Patriarch Han is? One of the 9th Netherworld Demon Sect cultivators hesitated for a moment before mustering up the courage to ask in a loud voice after seeing that only Grandma Long and the others had returned. When the cultivators of the other sects heard this, they all pricked up their ears and looked at the three of them with ugly expressions. They died in battle. Granny Long said lightly. How could this be? Patriarch Frigid Stream? There's no need to say more. They died in battle. Granny Long waved her hand impatiently and then picked 2 cultivators from the Yin Yang sect. Sakya Thoughtless looked at Sakya Huijing and nodded lightly. Sakya Huijing flew into the sky and stood behind Sakya Thoughtless. She couldn't suppress the joy in her eyes. The other cultivators could only look at the 3 who were picked with envy. The cultivators of the 6 Paths of Reincarnation sect, the 9 Netherworld Demon sect, the Battle sect, and the Mental Demon sect were all livid, but they didn't dare to show it. They could only grit their teeth in their hearts and swear to pass the news back to their sections. How could Frigid Stream die, but Granny Long and the others didn't? There must be something fishy going on. Phew! We're finally back. We won first place in the perilous realm of death. The impassable divine stone is much bigger than before. Ha! 7 or 8 figures simultaneously appeared in a remote area of the impasse of death. When everyone discovered that the impasse god's stone had appeared, their faces revealed a trace of surprise. Then, they all turned their gazes to the cultivator with the most slender figure and the strongest aura. Brother Feng, after the impassable god's stone appears, there are still 3 days of buffer time. Let's go and bring our juniors, then we'll gather here and head there together. Feng Qingxue nodded his head lightly and said, "This grand gamble is not simple. Even the Thunder Emperor and Immortal Hidden Immortal have died. I don't know if Divine Sun Yin is still alive. Go and return quickly, lest things change." Hearing this, everyone's expression turned serious. Then, they nodded and left. This group of cultivators in the top 50 of the combat power list, led by Feng Qingxue, who ranked second on the combat power list, could be considered a small group that transcended Divine Sun Yin and the 7 sects and valleys. Before the grand gamble, they had already discussed how to advance and retreat together. At first, they were prepared to hide until the end of the grand gamble to protect themselves. However, they did not expect that there would be a change in the middle of the grand gamble. They just did not have the chance to meet Ning Beixian, who ranked first on the combat power list. Or rather, they did not dare to meet Ning Beixian. After all, this matter was very strange. Even the Thunder Emperor and Immortal Hidden Immortal had died. Without full confidence, they had to be careful. The second day after the grand gamble ended, Ning Qi led everyone in the direction of the impassable god's stone. Everyone continued to rise. After breaking through the layers of clouds, they found that below the impassable god's stone, there was a bronze platform. It was hundreds of miles long and wide. It was very huge. Even if hundreds of thousands of people stood on it, it would not be crowded. At the moment, there were already thousands of masters of creation on this bronze platform. These cultivators had rushed here on the first day the impassable god's stone appeared. Many of them saw that Ning Qi had brought hundreds of people, many of whom were Transcendence Realm cultivators, and their faces immediately showed anger. When these cultivators were gambling, they were scattered in every corner of the impassable god's battlefield. From beginning to end, they had not seen Ning Qi. Other than them, there was a small group of cultivators, about 70 to 80 people. When they saw Ning Qi's arrival, their expressions changed slightly. They counted the number of people Ning Qi had brought and sighed in their hearts. It seemed that the gift of the impassable god's stone had nothing to do with them. 5 calamities Master of Creation? 6 calamities Master of Creation? Chapter 1796. Chapter 1796. Hearing the scolding from the 7 Tribulation Creator, the cultivators who knew Ning Qi's identity had strange expressions. They looked at the 7 Tribulation Creator with pity. "So it's 100-mile godly fist, Hua Qingyang. I heard he is very arrogant and sometimes doesn't even put 8 Tribulation Creators in his eyes. He really is arrogant. He is going to kick a metal plate this time. Telling Senior Ning to scram? Haha, he has a lot of face." They looked at the 7 Tribulation Creator with schadenfreude. However, most of the cultivators were like Hua Qingyang, looking at Ning Qi and the others with disdain. Someone said mockingly, "Merely 5th or 6th Tribulation Masters of Creation. There are also many 1st and 2nd Tribulation Masters of Creation, and even Transcendence Realm cultivators. Where did these beggars come from? Do they really think that everyone can come here to accept the impassable divine stone's inheritance after the grand gamble?" After the cloud-rising villagers heard this, they revealed angry expressions. However, Wang Lin and company were very calm. They looked at the cultivators before them with a hint of mockery in their eyes. 10 breaths of time is almost up. If you don't scram now, don't blame my fist for being merciless, Hua Qingyang said coldly. Senior Hua, there is no need to be polite with them. Every time the impassable god stone appears, some people have died. These guys have eyes but are blind to charge in. They deserve to die. If Senior Hua is too lazy to do anything, I can do it for you, a handsome young cultivator said with a smile. Okay, go kill them all. Hua Qingyang nodded. That young cultivator was slightly stunned, and a trace of anger flashed in his eyes. Although he was a 6th Tribulation Master of Creation, the other party also had a 6th Tribulation Master of Creation. Hua Qingyang obviously wanted him to make use of the other party to get rid of him. That way there would be one more slot. Thinking of this, the young cultivator let out a cold laugh. With a light snap of his fingers, a few more 6th Tribulation Masters of Creation stood out. The young cultivator smiled at them and said, Senior and Junior brothers, shall we attack together? Okay. The 6 Tribulation Creators smiled and nodded. Then, they let out a long whistle and flew toward Ningqi. A cold light flashed across Ningzi's eyes. With a slight movement of her body, she disappeared on the spot. When she reappeared, she was already above the young cultivators. So fast? The eyes of those young cultivators revealed a trace of shock. Before they could react, the wings on Ningzi's back slowly spread open. Like a sharp blade, they swept across the bodies of those young cultivators. With a soft poof, the cultivators on the bronze platform saw those young cultivators who were confident in their victory turn into a pile of minced meat and fall to the ground. Instant kill. They were all 6 Tribulation Masters of Creation, but they were all killed in an instant? They looked at Ningzi with a trace of horror in their eyes. Interesting. No wonder you all dare to come here. You are indeed qualified to receive the impassable divine stone's cultivation. However, the others still need to scram. Otherwise, I will personally suppress you as well. Hua Qingyang looked at Ningzi and smiled. A strange light flashed across his eyes. Ningzi's beauty and combat strength made him a little tempted. At this moment, a few dozen figures flew over and appeared on the bronze platform. When Hua Qingyang and the rest saw that group of people, their expressions changed. Hua Qingyang, who was originally arrogant, cupped his hands together with the other cultivators. Greetings, Senior Feng Qingxue, ranked 2nd on the combat power ranking, as well as a few other cultivators in the top 50 of the combat power ranking. They had stayed in the impasse of death for many years. Hua Qingyang and the rest had seen them before, so they naturally recognized him at a glance. Feng Qingxue nodded lightly. When his gaze swept over Ningqi, he frowned slightly. A cultivator in the top 50 of the combat power ranking behind him looked at Ningqi and couldn't help but say, a few hundred people? There are even Transcendence Realm cultivators? Since when did the impassable divine stone's cultivation transfer become so cheap? Seniors, we are preparing to chase them away, Hua Qingyang quickly said. Other than them, your side too. More than 1,000 masters of creation? What kind of joke is this? Those with low cultivation can scram. Another cultivator in the top 50 of the combat power ranking shouted coldly. The cultivators who were hoping to get lucky revealed awkward smiles when they heard this. They prepared to leave on their own, lest they were attacked by the other party. If that happened, they might not even be able to keep their lives. Sakya Wunyan and the others are here too. Feng Qingxue's eyes suddenly narrowed as he looked into the distance. He saw 6 figures speeding over and landing on the bronze platform. It was Grandmother Long and Sakya Wunyan. Grandmother Long, why don't I see Brother Han and the others? Feng Qingxue smiled. The cultivators in the top 50 of the combat power ranking behind him sneered when they saw Grandmother Long and the others. They were all itinerant cultivators and more or less had some enmity with the 7 major sections. Otherwise, they wouldn't have formed a small group with Feng Qingxue as the leader. They were unlucky and died in the impasse battlefield. Grandmother Long said lightly. That's a pity. Even the Thunder Emperor and the others died this time, right? I wonder what kind of accident happened in the gambling war this time? Feng Qingxue said with a faint smile. Although he said it was a pity, the surrounding cultivators could clearly feel that Feng Qingxue was gloating. We're not too sure. Grandmother Long smiled. Hey, are you deaf? Why aren't you scramming? Do you want me to suppress you personally? At this time, one of the cultivators in the top 50 of the combat power ranking behind Feng Qingxue saw that Ning Qi and the others had not left the bronze platform on their own. His face suddenly showed a trace of impatience, and he scolded. Seeing this scene, Grandmother Long's expression suddenly became extremely strange. Young Master Ning, we brought 3 people this time. Should there be enough seats? Grandmother Long looked at Ning Qi with a smile. I have a total of 485 people on my side. Including the 6 of you, it is indeed enough. I thought at least a dozen of you would come. Ning Qi smiled and nodded. Seeing this scene, the cultivators on the bronze platform suddenly revealed a look of surprise. They looked at Ning Qi and then at Grandmother Long. The scene was a little quiet for a moment. Young Master Ning? Surnamed Ning? Could it be? Chapter 1797. Not a single spot Ning. Bei. Xian? When the cultivators on the bronze platform heard these 3 words, their expressions changed drastically. They looked at Ning Qi in disbelief. They were no stranger to this name. When they were in the impassable battlefield, they would pay attention to the combat point board from time to time. Many people's rankings changed constantly, but only one person remained at the top of the combat point board until the end of the gamble. That person was Ning Beixian. What? He's Ning Beixian? The cultivator in the top 50 of the combat point board that scolded Ning Qi earlier had a look of fear on his face. Hua Qingyang was dumbfounded. He looked at Ning Qi in disbelief. This guy was only a 5 tribulation creator. How could he be Ning Beixian? Ha. Now you're scared? The cultivators who already knew Ning Qi's identity had gloating looks on their faces. Although they knew that they might not have the spot to receive the impassable divine stone's inheritance, at least they had fought with Ning Qi before. With this relationship, they could choose to side with Cloud Rising Village. As for Hua Qingyang and the others, they might not be so lucky. Yes, I am Ning Beixian. Ning Qi looked at Feng Qingxue and nodded. Hiss! Hearing Ning Qi admitted himself, many cultivators took a deep breath. Hua Qingyang felt his legs turn to jelly, and he almost fell to the ground. It's over, Brother Ning, please don't take it to heart if I offended you. Feng Qingxue quickly cupped his hands and bowed. Brother Ning, I had eyes but failed to see, please forgive me. The cultivator in the top 50 of the combat point board quickly apologized to Ning Qi. Ning Qi ignored them and looked at Hua Qingyang. He said indifferently, You, come here. Senior Ning, I was wrong. Please spare my life, Senior Ning. Hua Qingyang fell to his knees and kowtowed to Ning Qi, begging for mercy. Come here. Ning Qi said. Senior Ning, I beg you to let me live. Hua Qingyang kept begging for mercy, not daring to go over. Ning Qi frowned slightly. With a light tap of his finger, a ray of immortal qi pierced through the void and pierced through Hua Qingyang's forehead. The 7 tribulation creator, Hua Qingyang, who was known as the 100 Miles Godly Fist, died on the spot. He didn't even have time to react. After he died, his divine soul emerged and he saw his corpse. Only then did he know that he had died in Ning Qi's hands. His divine soul stared at Ning Qi viciously and cursed. With a thought from Ning Qi, Hua Qingyang's spirit suddenly exploded into pieces and dissipated between heaven and earth. Seeing Ning Qi kill Hua Qingyang cleanly, Feng Qingxue's expression changed slightly, and a hint of fear appeared in his eyes. Many cultivators were glad that they didn't join Hua Qingyang and the dead Six Tribulation creators in mocking Ning Qi. Otherwise, they would have ended up like Hua Qingyang. You and you. Ning Qi pointed at a few cultivators. They were shocked, thinking that Ning Qi was going to attack them. They were puzzled. After all, they had killed enemies with Ning Qi before. However, they soon realized that Ning Qi didn't want to kill them, but to keep them. Ning Qi pointed at a total of 9 people. These 9 people had performed well in the Great Ruins. Although their cultivation levels weren't high, they were very decisive when they charged. Including you, there are exactly 500 people. As for the rest, leave. Ning Qi said plainly. Thank you, Senior Ning. The 9 cultivators who were pleasantly surprised knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Ning Qi a few times. They were ecstatic. They didn't expect Ning Qi to give the remaining 9 spots to them. When the other cultivators saw this, they were either jealous, envious, or indignant. However, they also knew that their performance in the Great Ruins wasn't as dazzling as these 9 people. They wanted to preserve their strength and didn't want to risk their lives. As long as they didn't die, there would be opportunities in the future. If they died, there would be no more opportunities. However, because of this mediocre thinking, they lost a great opportunity. What a pity! Grandmother Long and the others looked at each other. They knew that the 9 extra spots were left for them by Ning Qi. In the end, they thought that Ning Qi would give them 6 spots at most. Now, these 9 spots could only be given to others. Feng Qingxue and the others' expressions changed slightly. They looked at Ning Qi in disbelief. He actually gave the remaining 9 spots to the first and second Tribulation Masters of Creation and not them? Ning Beixian, it's fine that you took 485 spots, but we only have a total of 30 people. Don't tell me you can't even give 1 spot to us? No matter what, we are all in the top 50 of the combat power ranking. Isn't this too unreasonable? A cultivator couldn't hold back the anger in his heart. Feng Qingxue's expression changed slightly, but he didn't stop him. It was obvious that he also wanted to question Ning Qi. Where were you when we were charging in? I heard that there is a group of people in the top 50 of the combat power ranking who hide every time they gamble. After the battle is over, they will come and enjoy the gift of the impassable realm divine stone. I think that group of people is you, right? Ning Qi smiled faintly. So what? No matter what, the cultivator's face turned slightly red. He then started to quibble. Ning Qi waved his hand. I don't want to listen to your quibbling. Scram. Ning Beixian, don't go too far. Brother Feng, let's fight him. So what if he is first on the combat power ranking? No matter how I look at it, he is only a 5th Tribulation Master of Creation. I think there must be something wrong with the impassable realm divine stone this time. The Thunder Sovereign and the others might not have died. The numbers on the combat power ranking are all messed up. The cultivator immediately looked at Feng Qingxue and said angrily, Ning Beixian, we only want 8 spots. What do you think? Feng Qingxue looked at Ning Qi and said indifferently. Seeing this, the expressions of their juniors instantly turned ugly. However, they had no right to speak at the moment, so they could only curse Ning Qi in their hearts. Not even 1 spot. Ning Qi smiled. Then, let me see how strong the first on the combat power ranking is. Feng Qingxue smiled. As soon as he finished speaking, he waved his sword and stabbed out. The sword ray instantly arrived like a rainbow, slashing towards Ning Qi's face. Seeing this, Grandmother Long and the others showed a trace of pity in their eyes. Chapter 1798. Chapter 1798. Chapter 1798. One more day the cultivators around Feng Qingxue felt a chill in their hearts as they stared blankly at the bead of blood between his eyebrows. Just as they were hoping to get lucky, more and more beads of blood seeped from Feng Qingxue's eyebrows all the way to his lower body. Then, with a loud bang, his entire body was cut in half and fell to the left and right. No matter how strong Feng Qingshue's cultivation was or how strong the power of creation in his body was, after Ning Qi's slash, everything was wiped out. Just like a mortal, he could not be any more dead. His spiritual soul was also shattered. Even if an immortal descended to the mortal world, he would not be able to save him. Hiss, the cultivators present gasped and looked at the scene in disbelief. Feng Qingxue was ranked second on the Desperation Battlefield Combat Power ranking. He did not even give face to Sun Yan. Such a terrifying cultivator was actually cut in half by Ning Beishuan's slash. Everyone looked at Ning Qi with fear in their eyes. Brother Ning, we don't want the spots anymore. We'll leave now." At first, he wanted to fight Ning Qi to the death to obtain a few spots, but after Feng Qingshue's death, he completely gave up on this extravagant thought. He immediately put on a different face and smiled at Ning Qi. Then, he signaled the cultivators around him with his eyes and prepared to leave. "Feng Qingxue died for you, and you're leaving just like that?" Ning Qi laughed. The group of cultivators suddenly stopped in their tracks. Before they could open their mouths to beg for mercy, 9 immortal flames descended from the sky. Everyone could only hear them let out miserable cries before they were engulfed by the sea of immortal flames, struggling as they were burned to ashes. The system notifications kept ringing. Together with the creation points obtained in the Desperation Battlefield, Ning Qi's creation points had already exceeded the 300,000 mark. However, there was still a 700,000 gap from 1 million. At this point, the top 50 of the Desperation Battlefield Combat Power ranking, besides Sakya Thoughtless and Grandmother Long, were all dead. Many 7 Calamity Masters of Creation discovered that they were ranked in the top 10 of the Combat Power ranking. While they were shocked, they also felt infinite fear. "You're still not leaving?" Ning Qi looked around and smiled. "Senior Ning, we will take our leave." Those cultivators hurriedly cupped their fists and respectfully left the bronze platform, not daring to make the slightest movement. Ning Qi had even killed Feng Qingxue and the others, so how could they dare to offend Ning Qi at this moment? Soon, there were only 500 people left on the bronze platform. "Young Master Ning, I'm afraid there will be a huge uproar if news of this huge gamble spreads. The appearance of the soul-devouring worms and you. Yuan Venerate Heavenly Gu should have received the news. The Joyous Demon Sect and the other sects have also sent cultivators out of the perilous realm of death to spread the news. I'm afraid you will have to face the wrath of the 9 Tribulation Masters if you leave the perilous realm of death," Grandma Long said with a smile, a hint of curiosity in her eyes. "But I see that young Master Ning doesn't seem to be afraid at all." "I'm really curious, Granny Long. Sometimes curiosity kills the cat." Ning Qi laughed. Grandmother Long's eyes moved slightly, then she smiled and nodded. She knew what Ning Qi meant. At this time, Sakya Huijing, who was standing behind Sakya Thoughtless, was sizing up the cultivators of Cloud Rise Village behind Ning Qi when she suddenly met a pair of familiar eyes. "Senior brother?" Sakya Huijing had a look of astonishment on his face before he took a step forward in delight. "Senior brother, is that you? You're not dead?" "Sakya Samsara?" Grandma Long, Sakya Thoughtless, and another old woman from the Yin-Yang sect also noticed the figure after hearing Sakya Huijing's voice. "That's right, I'm not dead." Sakya Samsara slowly walked out of the crowd with a faint smile. Sakya Huijing was ecstatic, but also a little puzzled. "Senior brother, didn't you?" At this point, he glanced at Ning Qi fearfully. Sakya Thoughtless had a strange look on his face as he looked at Ning Qi and Sakya Samsara. The news that Sakya Samsara was not dead was really shocking. After all, they had witnessed Ning Qi's methods. Han Jian and the others had been killed immediately after offending him. Back then, they had heard that Sakya Samsara had gone to Cloud Rise Village to seek revenge for Sakya Huijing. However, logically speaking, he should have been a dead man by now. Otherwise, why would his name have suddenly been removed from the combat power list? Junior brother, you must be a little disappointed that I'm not dead, right? Sakya Samsara smiled faintly. Sakya Huijing was stunned as a trace of disbelief appeared in his eyes. Senior brother, why would you say that? I'm more than happy that you're not dead. Why would I be disappointed? Shiga of thoughtlessness looked at the two thoughtfully. Suddenly, a cold smile appeared on his lips. With his intelligence, he was able to guess some of the truth from the fact that Shiga had reincarnated and hadn't died. Even if there were some discrepancies, it wasn't far from the truth. Jealousy can indeed drive people crazy. Sakya Huijing specializes in Buddhist scriptures, but he still can't see through this logic. Say no more. Sakya Samsara sighed as if he did not want to talk nonsense with Sakya Huijing anymore. Senior brother, since you're not dead, why don't you return to the Nine Shatters ancient temple? Sakya Huijing lowered his head. At this moment, a trace of undetectable sharpness flashed in the depths of his eyes. I promised Brother Ning to stay in Cloud Rising Village for 100 years. Besides, my supreme golden Buddha body has been broken by Brother Ning. If I return to the Nine Shatters ancient temple, I don't know when I'll die inexplicably. Sakya Samsara's lips curled into a faint sneer. Sakya Huijing did not seem to hear the sneer. When he heard that Ning Chi had broken Sakya Samsara's golden Buddha body, a trace of a smile flashed in his eyes. When he raised his head again, his face was filled with guilt. This matter, it's all my fault. All right, you two brothers will have plenty of time to catch up in the future. Ning Chi smiled faintly. Sakya Samsara smiled and nodded. He turned around and retreated into the crowd. During this period of time, he had been staying in Cloud Rising Village, cultivating the supreme golden Buddha body that Ning Chi had modified. His mood was unprecedentedly calm. Compared to when he was the protector of the Nine Shatters ancient temple, specializing in combat and killing, he could comprehend more. He even picked up the Buddhist scriptures that he had abandoned many years ago. When he had time, he would study and read them over and over again. That was why he was very calm when he saw Sakya Huijing today. Ning Chi raised his head and looked at the impassable God stone. The bronze platform they were on was already very big, but the impassable God stone was still much bigger than the bronze platform. With Ning Chi's cultivation, his gaze could only penetrate 30% of the stone. Water-like blue light flowed slowly inside. This should be the divine power that had been injected into the bodies of the cultivators. Chapter 1799. Cultivation skyrocketing. On the third day after the impassable Godstone appeared, the expressions of Grandma Long and the others became even more serious. Aside from Ning Chi, all the cultivators were sitting cross-legged, looking up at the impassable Godstone with excitement. Ning Chi moved his mind and a figure appeared beside him. It's time for the impassable divine stone? As soon as Little Six appeared, his gaze landed on the impassable divine stone. A hint of fear flashed in his eyes. Back then, when he was at his peak, he had reached the point of death and was heavily injured by the impassable divine stone in one move. The existence behind the impassable divine stone was definitely an immortal many times stronger than him. But now, Little Six's aura was very weak. He wasn't even in the Battle Dan realm, so there was no need to be afraid of the impassable divine stone. When Grandmother Long and the rest saw Little Six, their eyes flashed with curiosity. The aura of this guy who suddenly appeared was as weak as an ant on the ground. But they felt that there was something unusual about him. Since he appeared next to Ning Beixian, it proved that his identity was definitely not simple. Little Six, your origin is damaged, so your cultivation has been unable to recover. Now that the impassable divine stone has absorbed the essence of the cultivators from both places, the amount of cultivation this time will be extraordinary. You can take this opportunity to recover your origin. Ning Chi smiled. Thank you, boss. It's rare that you still remember me at a time like this. Little Six said with a smile. After a pause, Little Six suddenly said, Boss, don't you want to go to the netherworld? The little octopus that you subdued last time can also come out and share some of its power. Maybe it will be of help when you go to the netherworld. Ning Chi's eyes moved slightly and he nodded. In the next moment, a mini octopus appeared on Ning Chi's shoulder. It seemed to be sleeping and didn't realize that it had left the demonic pet space. Little Six said that it is the god of the river Styx and can even kill an immortal emperor. Is this guy really that strong? Ning Chi's eyes flashed with a trace of doubt. Buzz! A loud noise suddenly came from the impassable god's stone. Everyone immediately felt a mysterious aura coming from above their heads. This aura carried a faint pressure. Some of the weaker Transcendence Realm cultivators almost couldn't breathe under this aura. When Ning Chi saw this, a faint celestial spiritual energy swept out, protecting the Transcendence Realm cultivators of Cloud Rise Village. The little octopus opened its eyes. Where am I? Where am I? It looked around in horror, its tentacles tightly wrapped around Ning Chi's neck, as if this was the only way to give it a sense of security. What a fragrant smell! It suddenly raised its head and looked at the impassable divine stone, its eyes revealing a trace of intoxication. It had begun. The impasse god stone began to pass on its power. Everyone was extremely excited. Even someone like Sakya Thoughtless, who had cultivated his state of mind to the pinnacle, couldn't help but be excited. After all, it had been a long, long time since the impasse of death had taken first place, and this time it was a complete victory. Almost all the cultivators from the two impasse realms had died. One could imagine how terrifying the gift from the impasse realm god stone would be. Buzz, buzz, buzz! The impasse god stone let out 9 loud bangs in a row. The impasse of death cultivators all looked toward this direction with envy. They knew that another group of cultivators would obtain a great opportunity. Pillars of light descended from the sky and landed on everyone on the bronze platform. Some were thick and some were thin. Some were as thin as a thread. For example, the ordinary Transcendence Realm cultivators of Cloud Rise Village, Li Xianxian, and the others only had a thin thread. The pillars of the first, second, and third tribulations were as thick as a pinky or thumb. Ning Zi and the others were as thick as a fist. Wang Lin and his wife were a bit weaker than Ning Zi, and Grandma Long and the others were about a foot thick. What was surprising was that the blue pillars above little Yuanzhua Ling were also about a foot thick. However, the most shocking thing was that they saw the blue pillar of light on Ning Chi's body. That was what they called a pillar. It was 3 to 4 meters thick. This diameter alone was countless times thicker than all of them combined. Shortly after, Li Xianxian and the others felt a cold aura flow through their meridians. Soon, this aura fused with their power and continued to increase. In just a few breaths of time, someone broke through a small realm. The same thing happened to everyone. Boom! A divine retribution cloud appeared, but it was immediately shattered by the impasse god stone. Waves of new creator auras came from the cultivators that were originally at the Transcendence Realm. In the blink of an eye, half of the Transcendence Realm cultivators in Cloud Rise Village had broken through to the first tribulation. The others didn't break through as fast, but the auras of the first and second tribulation creators were also increasing rapidly. They would definitely break through this time. It was only a matter of time. Little Six's eyes were tightly shut, but Ning Chi could feel that his aura had become intimidating. In his dantian, there seemed to be something that contained extremely terrifying power. That should be Little Six's origin. Once this origin was fully restored, it wouldn't take long for Little Six to regain the cultivation base of a creator. Boom! 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 Divine retribution clouds appeared above little Yuanzhua Ling. Their cultivation levels increased rapidly as if they were sitting on a rocket. A black and white Tai Chi diagram, formed by the power of creation, appeared above the two girls. First Tribulation Creator. Second Tribulation Creator. Third Tribulation Creator. Grandmother Long and the others felt the situation. Their eyes widened in disbelief, but they were looking forward to it even more. Breaking through to the next realm was something that had never happened before. If the two girls could do it, they might be able to break through to the ninth tribulation realm. Yin-yang fishes? Grandmother Long's eyes were filled with disbelief. She exchanged glances with the other old woman from the Yin-yang sect. They both saw a trace of shock in each other's eyes. Ningqi looked at the two girls with gratification in his eyes. At this time, the divine power that had entered his body also started to take effect. Plus 10,000 creation points. Plus 10,000 creation points. The divine power of the Impasse God Stone continued to increase Ningqi's cultivation level. On the status panel, Ningqi's creation points increased at a rate of 10,000 per second. In a short while, his creation points broke through the 1 million mark. At this time, a divine retribution cloud appeared above his head. The aura coming from this divine retribution cloud was more than 100 times stronger than the others. Perhaps because of this, the Impasse God Stone didn't help to disperse it, allowing the lightning tribulation to fall on Ningqi's head. Boom! The terrifying power of the lightning tribulation appeared above Ningqi's head and instantly filled his limbs and bones, condensing every cell in his body. Chapter 1800. Sixth Tribulation. Ding. Congratulations to the host for successfully ascending to Sixth Tribulation Creator. The system notification sounded. Ningqi's immortal qi had increased by more than 10 times, filling his meridians to the brim. His meridians, which had reached their limits, gradually widened after the breakthrough. It was as if he had crossed an important bottleneck. This advancement was different from the past. Ningqi felt that his condition had improved a lot. If his cultivation and battle strength were said to be infinitely close to a ninth tribulation creator before, then he was probably not much different from the happy demon lord now. The divine power of the impassible divine stone did not stop after helping Ningqi break through. The pillar of light on his body became brighter and brighter. Ningqi fell into a strange state. His perception of the outside world gradually disappeared, and he lost all sense of time. It was as if his soul was wandering in the vast galaxy. Time passed day by day, and in the blink of an eye, half a year had passed. Some cultivators with low cultivation had already completed the transfer in a month. They all had gained something and were pleasantly surprised. Like little Yuer, Zhuoling and the others, they were completely awake in 3 months, just like Grandmother Long and the others. The effect of the impassible divine stone on them gradually disappeared. Only Ningqi was still bathed in the blue pillar of light, and the aura on his body became more and more terrifying. Sigh, after Grandmother Long and the rest woke up, they sighed in disappointment. The benefits they had obtained this time did not allow them to successfully break through to the 9 tribulations master creation realm. However, the effects were still acceptable. Their cultivation was already infinitely close to the 9 tribulations master creation realm. The other old lady from the Yin-yang sect was at least comparable to Feng Qingxue. As for Grandmother Long and Sakya Thoughtless, they were probably not much different from Sun Yin. Haha, I'm a third tribulation creator. Hu Qingzi looked at herself proudly and could not help but laugh. If she cultivated normally, she would need at least 1,000 years to break through to third tribulation creator. But now, with just a gift from the impassible divine stone, she had broken through 2 tribulations, saving her countless years of hard cultivation. How could they? When Hu Qingzi's gaze fell on little Yuanzhua Linger, her eyes widened in disbelief. 7 Tribulation Creator. A single infusion of the Impasse Godstone directly turned the 2 of them into 7 Tribulation Creator. The divine power they obtained is probably far above ours. The other old woman of Yin Yang sect looked at little Ur and Zhuo Ling with envy. On Ning Qi's side, the two women's breakthroughs were the most obvious. Apart from them, Ning Zi and the others had all advanced a level and became 7 tribulation masters of creation. Shortly after was Wang Lin and his wife. The two of them had broken through from 1 calamity to 4 calamity. Although the increase wasn't as exaggerated as little Yu-Er's, compared to other cultivators who had only increased by 1 rank, the benefits were great. After Ning Zi and the other 3 woke up, they adapted to their current strength and walked to Little Six's side and sat down. At this moment, Little Six's eyes were closed and his aura was still as weak as before, like an ant. However, the source of his body was being repaired by the divine power of the divine stone and was recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. The little octopus was originally climbing on Ning Qi's body, but now it was on Little Six's shoulder. There was also a blue pillar of light on its body that was as thick as an arm. It revealed an intoxicated expression, as if it was enjoying the benefits of the divine power. Not long after, the little octopus woke up first. It excitedly waved its tentacles and proudly looked at Ning Zi and company. Interesting. You've absorbed so much divine power, but it hasn't increased your cultivation at all. Are you eating them like their food? Little Six's eyes slowly opened, and his gaze fell upon the little octopus. A sharp light flashed through his eyes. At that moment, Grandmother Long and the others happened to look in Little Six's direction. Little Six seemed to have sensed their gazes, and he raised his head to look at them with a faint smile on his face. Grandmother Long and the rest felt a slight pain in their eyes, as though they were being pricked by needles. They hurriedly shifted their gazes away, but they were secretly shocked in their hearts. An ant whose aura was not even comparable to a Do-Dan realm cultivator had actually given them an indifferent look, as though they were on the verge of death. This was enough to prove that the fellow in front of them was definitely not as simple as he looked. Thinking about how Ning Qi's cultivation level was very low, yet he was able to suppress the Thunder Emperor and company, Grandma Long and company couldn't help but curse in their hearts. Sure enough, those who associate with a freak are also freaks. Boss still hasn't woken up? Little Six's gaze fell on Ning Qi, and a trace of worry flashed in his eyes. The other cultivators looked at Ning Qi enviously. The longer the cultivation passed on, the greater the benefit. Although Ning Qi seemed to have only advanced by 1 level, they all believed that Ning Qi must have obtained a lot of other benefits. Little Six didn't think so. When he was at his peak, he had come to the impasse of death. He didn't have any clue about the existence behind the impasse god stone. The unknown power was always terrifying. This kind of cultivation that was like a blessing had its advantages and disadvantages. If it was too long, it was easy for some changes to occur. Without understanding the purpose of the impasse god stone's owner, Little Six still had a trace of vigilance. Soul leaving the body? After floating in the galaxy for a very long time, Ning Qi finally woke up from his daze. His expression became somewhat serious. He suspected that his soul had been sucked out of his body and brought here. However, after carefully thinking about it, Ning Qi was sure that his soul was still in his body. As for this seemingly endless and boundless galaxy, it should be a place in his body that had passively or actively produced this kind of change. Interesting, to be able to meet this kind of physical body in this world. The heavens have indeed not forsaken me. Although it is still very weak, its potential is not low. After I obtain it and cultivate for a few hundred years, I will have the qualifications to kill my way back to the immortal continent, right? However, perhaps in the future there will be an even better physical body. Should I take this? At this moment, a mysterious existence was paying attention to Ning Qi's soul. Not only his soul, but Ning Qi's entire body was being seen by this existence. After using up so many years of divine power, my cultivation actually only increased by 1 tribulation? Let me see where your limits are. If you really meet my requirements, then you are qualified to be my vessel. Ha ha, if those old things see me appear in front of them, they will definitely be very surprised. In the outside world. Chapter 1801. Chapter 1801. Soul seizing, what's going on? Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air as they stared at this scene in disbelief. The impassible divine stone was originally blue in color, and the blue was actually the divine power flowing within it. Everyone was well aware of this, but now that all the blue had gathered at one point, it meant that the power of the impassible divine stone had all been condensed together. At the same time, this power was frantically pouring into Ning Qi's body. If this continued, wouldn't the impassible divine stone become useless in the future? Could it be that even the impassible divine stone is so optimistic about him? Sakya Huijing's eyes flashed with jealousy. Sakya Samsara, who was standing among the crowd, had a faint look of ridicule in his eyes when he saw this scene. As if sensing Sakya Samsara's gaze, Sakya Huijing's expression changed slightly again and returned to normal. There was no longer any trace of emotion that a monk shouldn't have. If all this divine power is poured into Ning Beishuan's body, wouldn't he become a Yuan Venerate? Thinking of this, Grandma Long and the other two were shocked, both envious and jealous. Such a great opportunity had appeared in front of them, but unfortunately, they weren't the ones to receive it. Bei Xian will be fine, right? Fei Yuding was a little worried. She still understood the principle of going too far is as bad as not going far enough. If Ning Qi's previous beam of light was countless times larger than theirs, it would still be normal, but the purpose of the impassible divine stone right now was terrifying. Such a mysterious impassible divine stone had condensed its power into one point and seemed to be continuously pouring into Ning Qi's body. Logically speaking, any cultivator below the 9th tribulation realm would explode and die, right? Rest assured, nothing will happen to Beishuan. A person's opportunity is predestined. This is Beishuan's opportunity. Wang Lin seemed to notice Fei Yuding's worry and held her hand with a look of anticipation in his eyes. Once Beishuan receives this divine power, his cultivation will definitely rise to a terrifying level. At that time, we'll be able to find the whereabouts of our daughter and son-in-law. That's right. Fei Yuding's eyes lit up. Everyone silently looked at Ning Qi. Time passed second by second. From the first day they set foot on the bronze platform until now, a full 3 years had passed. During this period of time, Ning Qi's body had already expanded uncontrollably, revealing the image of an ancient immortal emperor. His body was like a giant as he quietly sat cross-legged. His body was surrounded by immortal qi. Tens of thousands of immortal mountains, jade palaces, fairies and cranes were faintly discernible. One by one, the cultivators put some distance between themselves and Ning Qi, not daring to get too close. After 3 whole years, the changes to Ning Qi's body had become increasingly obvious. His muscles gradually swelled. Soon, Little Six and the others noticed that something was wrong with Ning Qi's body. The degree of bulging muscles had exceeded the limit. It was like a 100-kilogram person eating 200 kilograms of food. Ning Qi's muscles had become ugly lumps of meat piled up together. His facial features were also squeezed together, making him look very ferocious. And in these 3 years, the blue energy inside the impassible God Stone had decreased by a full third. It was hard to imagine how powerful this energy was. It was obvious that Ning Qi's current appearance was caused by this energy. If the impassible God Stone had continued to inject divine power into him, Ning Qi's final outcome would have been his body exploding. Sakya Huijing, who was originally very jealous of Ning Qi, was now rejoicing in Ning Qi's misfortune. Around the bronze platform, more and more cultivators came to watch the show. They realized that the impasse god stone had appeared for too long. They couldn't help but risk their lives to get closer. Is that Ning Beixian? How did he end up like this? Xiao Wuye and the others looked at the incomparably huge body in the center of the bronze platform with a trace of shock on their faces. This was because Ning Qi's current appearance didn't look like a human, but more like a monster. His bulging muscles caused his shoulders to bulge out, and Ning Qi's head wasn't as high as his shoulders. From the visual effect, it looked like his head was sinking. Don't bite off more than you can chew. From the looks of it, his body will explode. Many cultivators could tell the reason for Ning Qi's current state from the changes on the impassable god stone. Their faces revealed a trace of mockery. They were the cultivators who had been chased away from the bronze platform by Ning Qi. Although they didn't dare to show any dissatisfaction towards Ning Qi on the surface, they hated him to the core. There were only 500 spots in total, and Ning Qi alone had taken 485 spots. In their eyes, this was an extremely selfish act. Furthermore, when they saw that the auras of those cultivators were countless times stronger than before, they couldn't help but feel jealous. These benefits should have been theirs, but because of Ning Qi, they had lost this great opportunity. Little Six, there's something wrong with Boss's current state. Ningzi frowned and said, "NN." Fatty Ning looked at Ning Qi nervously and nodded. He wasn't good with words, but from his expression, it could be seen that he was extremely worried about Ning Qi's current state. It seems that the impassable god stone's gift is too much. Why is this impassable god stone so enthusiastic? Is there any way to cut it off? I'm afraid Boss won't be able to digest it. Ning Jin reached out to touch his chin and said, "The impassable god stone was set up by a supreme being. It can be said that it's a formation, it can also be said that it's a mechanism. Even if I was at my peak, I'm afraid I wouldn't have the ability to stop the impassable god stone, let alone now. Right now, only Boss can rely on himself to overcome this crisis. At least, we know one thing," Little Six said with a solemn expression. "Know what?" Ning Zi and the others asked doubtfully. "The impassable god stone is a bastard," Little Six said coldly. "It must have its own consciousness. Otherwise, why would it coincidentally choose Boss? If it was any one of us, I'm afraid it wouldn't take long for our bodies to explode and die. Boss has already endured for 3 years, and at least 1/3 of the energy that the impassable god stone has plundered over the years has been poured into his body. It must have its own purpose, and it's impossible for it to give all this power away for no reason." A trace of pondering flashed in Little Six's eyes. However, he couldn't guess the purpose of the impassable god stone. In the Milky Way, Ning Qi didn't know how many years he had wandered for, but he still couldn't find a way to return to his body. However, he gradually felt that he was getting further and further away from his body. If I'm not wrong, there's an existence in the impassable god stone that's planning to take over my body. From the looks of it, there is indeed an intelligent being controlling it. Ning Qi muttered to himself, You're quite smart. What a pity, if I still had my body, I would definitely take you as my disciple." Chapter 1802. You won't mind, right? Ning Qi looked up and saw a middle-aged man standing not far away. He wore an incomparably large Taoist robe, and his long hair fluttered on both sides of his chest. At this moment, his Taoist robe seemed to be fluttering in the wind, and he looked like a sage. "Senior, you set up the impassable god stone?" Ning Qi smiled. "I'm ashamed to say this, but the name impassable god stone was given by those busybodies. Due to various reasons, after I came here, the only formation I can set up is a small formation that normal sects use to select their disciples. It doesn't even have a name," the Taoist-robed middle-aged man said with a smile. "A formation used to select disciples?" Ning Qi thought about how the impassable godstone was similar to the legendary Gu Rearing. Cultivators were thrown in there to kill. The longer they lived, the stronger they would be. You have the blood of immortals flowing in you. You're obviously the descendant of some minor immortal that was left here. You're very compatible with my soul and your talent is not bad. I've stored up a third of the divine power here and I've injected it into your body. You seem to be cultivating a technique that specializes in body strengthening? The middle-aged man smiled. Ning-Chi smiled but didn't answer the question. Instead, he asked curiously, Senior, you must be an immortal that fell to this place in the immortal realm, right? I wonder what your cultivation level was when you were in the immortal realm? They called me Shin Gong, Immortal Master there. The smile on the middle-aged man's face gradually disappeared. A trace of reminiscence flashed across his eyes. Immortal Master? Ning-Chi's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. No wonder Little Six was severely injured by the Immortal Lord Stone even when he was at his peak. It turned out that behind the Immortal Lord Stone was an existence of the Immortal Lord Stone. It seemed that he was heavily injured, so badly that his soul couldn't even be seen in this world. But it was also possible that he was hiding from the cultivators of the underworld. No matter what the reason was, Little Six's luck was good. Or else he wouldn't just be heavily injured, he would have died. If that's the case, then Dao Yen Immortal Emperor didn't dare to step into the 9 Desolates and the 3 Impassible Gods. Perhaps he already has some understanding of the 3 Impassible Gods. From the looks of it, you seem to know what the words Immortal Lord represent? Shin Gong Immortal Monarch smiled. I have indeed heard of it. With Senior's cultivation, you are an existence that all immortals look up to in the land of immortals, right? Ning-Chi smiled and nodded. I really can't bear to part with you. If I still had my physical body, I would definitely take you in as my disciple. It's really hard to meet an immortal descendant who can speak to me in this place. Shin Gong Immortal Monarch sighed. Senior, are you planning to destroy my divine soul and seize my physical body? Ning-Chi smiled. I have no other choice. My injuries are too severe, and I can't even reform my physical body. Little friend, you won't mind, right? Shin Gong Immortal Lord smiled. Even if I do mind, haven't I been tricked into coming here by Senior? What other choice do I have? Ning-Chi smiled. Indeed, I don't have a choice, but why are you so calm? Aren't you afraid of death? Speaking of which, since you're able to be possessed by me, your fleshly body is destined to be famous in the immortal world in the future. All immortals will submit to you. Your family will be my family, your friends will be my friends. Even if I take your fleshly body, I will do my best for you. Don't worry. Shin Gong Immortal Lord comforted him. After a pause, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. The strength of your physical body is far beyond my imagination. Although the power I secretly absorbed from the dead ants in these years is not even comparable to a strand of my hair when I was at my peak, it is still equivalent to the power of 509 Tribulations creators, almost on par with a human immortal. Now that 1/3 of my power has been poured into your body, you can still withstand it. It's really shocking. This is equivalent to 1/3 of a human immortal's power, and your realm is far from being able to withstand it. Little friend, can you tell me where did you get your cultivation method from? Senior, I'm afraid that you purposely appeared not to chat with me, but to know the origin of these cultivation methods, right? In fact, if Senior can successfully take over my body, you will know in the future. Ning-Chi smiled. You don't want to say? That's fine. Since I have decided to take your body, I will naturally let it reach its strongest state. I will look for you when I have finished pouring all my power into it. Shin Gong Immortal Lord smiled, and his figure suddenly disappeared on the spot. Ning-Chi stood in the Milky Way, and a trace of thought flashed across his eyes. If I'm not wrong, the chances of me being taken over should be 0? In the outside world, the power in Ning-Chi's corporeal body had skyrocketed countless times. Originally, after breaking through to the 6th Tribulation Creator realm, He needed 10 million creation points to advance to the 7 tribulation creator realm. In 3 years, his creation points had gone from 0 to 10 million. The imprisonment elephant dragon art had also advanced from the 8th heaven to the 9th heaven, and his overall combat power had increased tremendously. Another 7 days passed, and the crowd noticed that the speed of the impassable divine stone pouring power into Ning Qi's body was several times faster than before. The divine power that was poured into Ning Qi's body had also increased from 1/3 to half. At this moment, another tribulation cloud appeared in the sky. "You're going to advance again? Why did it take 3 years for Ning Beixian to advance for the second time?" The expressions of Grandma Long and the rest changed slightly, and they were a little confused. They subconsciously glanced at Little Yuer and Little Yuer. They only used a few months to advance to the 7 calamities Master of Creation, but Ning Qi used more than 10 times longer than them? Lightning rumbled in the tribulation cloud. The crowd could even see the golden dragon formed by the lightning occasionally poking its head out, looking at Ning Qi with endless killing intent in its eyes. The lightning tribulation has turned into a dragon. This is the lightning tribulation for a 6 tribulations creator to advance to the 7 tribulations creator? Even if it's an 8 tribulations advancing to the 9 tribulations, it shouldn't be this terrifying, right? Grandma Long mumbled to herself. At this moment, a deafening dragon roar sounded, causing the bronze platform and the surrounding cultivators to almost vomit blood. Then, hundreds of golden dragons coiled together and rushed towards Ning Qi. Boom! Ning Qi's body was struck by the dragonization thunder tribulation, and his skin turned into charcoal. A small part of the terrifying thunder tribulation was absorbed and refined by his confining dragon-elephant technique, but most of it was wreaking havoc on his body. If nothing went wrong, Ning Qi's body would disintegrate under this terrible power. "Heavenly Tao, you want to take my body? Dream on." A cold snort sounded in the endless void. Then, the majestic divine power in Ning Qi's body swept towards the lightning tribulation. At the same time, the last half of the divine power in the impassable divine stone also rushed into Ning Qi's body. Ning Qi's body instantly expanded by several times, and he was no longer human. In the eyes of the crowd, his body was in danger of exploding at any time. Just as the divine power and the power of the thunder tribulation were clashing, a mysterious power swept out from Ning Qi's body and engulfed the two powers. Chapter 1803. A mysterious mark. The power of the thunder retribution and the divine power of the impassable godstone were instantly devoured by the new power in Ning Qi's body. They were assimilated and turned into pure immortal qi without any impurities. It nourished Ning Qi's internal and external injuries. His skin that had been charred by the thunder retribution peeled off layer by layer, revealing new snow-white skin underneath. At the same time, everyone could see with their naked eyes that the tumors on Ning Qi's body were slowly disappearing due to absorbing too much divine power. This meant that Ning Qi was temporarily not in danger of exploding. Instead, he was absorbing the power and turning it into his own. A smile appeared in Little Six's eyes. He didn't know what had happened, but the situation seemed to be changing for the better. How could this be? Sakya Huijing's expression changed slightly. She couldn't help but clench her fist. Her opponent was already on the verge of exploding, and he was struck by the thunder retribution of the dragon transformation. But in the end, he wasn't in danger of exploding. Could it be that the collision of the two powers had caused them to eliminate each other? No one knew that there were 3 powers fighting inside Ning Qi's body. But whether it was the power of the thunder retribution or the divine power, when faced with the new power, they were like defenseless women and children. They were killed, suppressed, destroyed, assimilated, absorbed, and fused. This is the fruit of fortune? Why does he have a fruit of fortune? In the endless void, the remnant soul of immortal Lord Shengong, who had been secretly manipulating everything, revealed a look of anger. The fruit of fortune was a sacred item even in the land of the immortals. He knew that a few immortal emperors had some, and the fruit of fortune in their hands had been snatched from a group of ascended immortals who were unwilling to submit to them a long time ago. That battle was earth-shattering and destroyed an entire immortal realm. At that time, he wasn't even an immortal lord, but a mere heaven immortal. In the end, the immortals who had ascended were all slaughtered, but no one could say for sure whether or not they had truly died. At that realm, the boundary between life and death had become extremely blurry. Even if they saw the other party being chopped into meat paste and their souls destroyed, perhaps after tens of thousands of years or hundreds of thousands of years, they would see the other party appear out of nowhere. Shingong Immortal Lord was able to recognize the aura of the fruit of fortune because an immortal emperor had once taken out a fruit of fortune to restore the shattered immortal realm. When Shingong Immortal Lord saw this scene, the aura of the fruit of fortune was deeply imprinted in his heart and would never be erased. Good fortune, seizing the good fortune of the heavenly Tao. This is a sacred object that is closest to the heavenly Tao. How could it appear on him? Just what is this kid's identity? Shingong Immortal Monarch calmed down after his initial shock and anger. He had already lost control of his opponent's physical body. With the fruit of fortune inside, even if he was at his peak, he might not be able to control it. However, he immediately thought of a key point. As long as he killed and destroyed Ning Qi's spirit, he could replace him. A body with a fruit of fortune. Ah! Shingong Immortal Lord was ecstatic. The remnant soul moved slightly and once again appeared in the boundless galaxy. Ning Qi was not surprised to see Shingong Immortal Lord. He smiled and said, "Senior, you're here again? You have a fruit of fortune, which is indeed beyond my expectations. I think your bloodline is not simple." Shingong Immortal Lord smiled. Fruit of fortune? Ning Qi looked at Shingong Immortal Lord calmly and smiled faintly. "Senior, what do you want now? Are you planning to kill my divine soul and then take away my physical body? Since you already know, why ask when you already know? If you are willing to disperse your spirit, I can promise you 3 conditions and complete your unfinished business." Shingong Immortal Lord smiled. He already had some speculations about Ning Qi's origin, but he did not intend to say it out loud. With his Immortal Lord cultivation, he could not estimate the divine sense of an immortal emperor. He was not sure if he would be sensed if he said the name, which would cause all his previous efforts to go to waste. Moreover, after discovering the existence of the fruit of fortune, he was not willing to kill Ning Qi's spirit with his own hands. That would leave behind karma. For an immortal emperor, sorting out karma did not seem to be a difficult task. If someone wanted to investigate in the future, they could definitely find out that he killed Ning Qi. "You want me to kill myself?" Ning Qi's expression was slightly strange. "Yes." Shingong Immortal Lord nodded. "I'm afraid I have to disappoint you. I will not kill myself. If you want to kill my spirit, please do so." Ning Qi smiled. "Do you really want me to do it myself?" Shingong Immortal Lord frowned slightly. Seeing that Ning Qi was just looking at him with a faint smile, Shingong Immortal Lord's eyes flashed with anger. He said indifferently, "Fine, let me kill your spirit with my own hands." As soon as he finished speaking, the Star River suddenly rippled. Then, monstrous Star River water rose into the sky and swept towards Ning Qi. Shingong Immortal Lord looked at this scene indifferently. Although he was only a remnant soul, he was in existence at the Immortal Lord level at his peak. This remnant soul was countless times stronger than the spirit of the opponent. With a single thought, the opponent would not be able to escape the fate of being suppressed. The Star River water, which was originally harmless to Ning Qi, was now filled with endless killing intent. With a loud bang, it hit Ning Qi's spirit. Although it is tainted with karma, if this body is cultivated well, it may be able to return to its peak in the future, Shingong, immortal lord, murmured to himself. He was about to turn around and leave this place to take away the body. However, just as he turned around, he suddenly turned his head back and looked at Ning Qi in disbelief. Ning Qi looked at Shingong, immortal lord, with a faint smile. Outside his spirit, there was a faint golden light that blocked the Star River water that had just swept towards him. His guess was right. The system could not only exist in his body. It must exist in his spirit. If his body died, the system might choose another master. However, Shingong, immortal lord, wanted to kill Ning Qi's spirit. This was equivalent to destroying the system as well. Although he did not know the details of the system and what its limits were, Ning Qi believed that a mere remnant soul of an immortal lord should not be able to destroy the system with its vast divine sense. Therefore, the probability of him being possessed was indeed 0. At this moment, a circular mark suddenly appeared on the golden light shield. There was a large ancient character on it, Jiang. When Shingong, immortal lord, saw this character, his expression changed from shock to horror. However, it was not over yet. Another mark appeared on the golden light shield. It was also a large ancient character. How could this be? Shingong, immortal lord, seemed to have seen an unbelievable scene. Chapter 1804. To silence a witness, these marks. It was also Ning Qi's first time seeing these markings. His eyes flickered. They could very well be related to the system's origin. With that in mind, Ning Qi decisively asked Shingong, immortal lord, Shingong, immortal lord, do you recognize these markings? How is this possible? Why are there 9 of you here at the same time? Who are you? Shingong, immortal monarch, muttered to himself with a face full of fear. Then, he suddenly looked at Ning Qi and growled in a low voice. His sage-like demeanor and confident look of victory seemed to have been thrown away. At this moment, he was no better than those cultivators who had been killed by Ning Qi. Tell me, what do these marks represent? Ning Qi said coldly. At this moment, Shingong, immortal monarch, suddenly begged for mercy. Don't kill me, I was blind, it's not him, it's you guys. Before his voice died away, a golden light shot out from the 9 seals at the same time and penetrated the remnant soul of Shingong, immortal. His expression became blank, and then, with a bang, his remnant soul shattered into pieces and dissipated on the spot. What a pity! Ning Qi frowned slightly. It was rare that Shingong, immortal lord, seemed to recognize these 9 marks. Perhaps he could ask him about the origin of these 9 marks. Unfortunately, before Shingong, immortal lord, could say anything, the system had directly erased Shingong, immortal lord, and the trail was broken. Ning Qi could not help but suspect that the system was silencing him. At this time, Ning Qi felt a bit dizzy. He guessed that he had to leave this place and return to his body. In that instant, Ning Qi committed the 9 marks to memory. When he left, he would ask Little Six if he knew anything about the origins of the marks. Boom! Ning Qi's vision darkened. When he opened his eyes again, he discovered that he was already back on the bronze platform. The impassable godstone above his head was already completely transparent, without the slightest bit of divine power. After Ning Qi returned, it gradually disappeared from everyone's sight. The bronze platform under everyone's feet also disappeared along with the impassable godstone. Boss, how do you feel now? Seeing Ning Qi open his eyes, Little Six hurriedly stepped forward and asked. It feels like, Ning Qi closed his eyes and felt the aura in his body. An incomparably surging immortal spiritual energy was swimming in his meridians. This time, he had broken through 2 realms, from a 5 tribulation creator to a 7 tribulation creator. Not only did his immortal spiritual energy increase by countless times, even his meridians had widened by many times. My current strength is probably not weaker than the joy demon Exalt. I might even be much stronger than him. Ning Qi recalled the scene in the Dead Man Valley and compared his current strength with that of the Joy Demon Exalt and the others. He realized that when he had been a sixth tribulation creator, his combat strength might have been comparable to the Joy Demon Exalt. Now that he had broken through to the seven tribulation creator, his combat strength was definitely a little stronger than the Joy Demon Exalt. It was just that compared to 10x and the Corpse King, he might be slightly weaker. Perhaps his current combat strength was between the Joy Demon Exalt's level and the Yuan Venerate's level. Although I was almost possessed this time, the benefits I obtained were great. Shungong Immortal Lord had painstakingly managed this place for countless years, but all the divine power was absorbed by me. Now that I have crossed that threshold and my combat strength has increased to the level of a 9 tribulation creator, it is enough for me to protect myself in this central mainland. Besides the Dao Yen Immortal Lord, there is no one else who can threaten me. Ning Qi pondered this for a moment before his body gradually shrunk to the size of a normal person. Grandmother Long and the others came forward to congratulate him when they saw this. They were not the only ones. Almost all the cultivators nearby felt the same way because they had seen the power of the impasse divine stone pour into Ning Qi's body. However, Ning Qi did not self-destruct. This meant that Ning Qi had either absorbed this power or suppressed it. No matter which one it was, everyone knew that Ning Qi's current combat strength had definitely soared to an unfathomable level. Everyone, I still have some matters to attend to. I will take my leave first. Ning Qi smiled at Grandmother Long and the others before leaving with the people of Cloud Rising Village. After they left, Sakya Wunyan slowly said, "The divine power of the impasse divine stone has been completely poured into Ning Beishuan's body. I reckon that the next great gamble will not start. There is no point in us staying in the impasse of death anymore." That's right. When the impasse divine stone recovers to its original state, I'm afraid it will take tens of thousands of years. However, this place is still suitable for those low-level cultivators. As for us, we should pack up and return to the sect to enjoy our lives. With our current strength, I'm afraid that our status in the sect will be very different from before, right? Grandmother Long smiled faintly. When Sakya Wunyan and the other old woman from the Yin-Yang sect heard this, a smile immediately appeared on their faces. That's right, although they were not as terrifying as Ning Qi this time, and had obtained all the divine power of the impasse divine stone, their cultivation had also greatly increased. At the very least, they had become existences at the level of Feng Qingxue. When they returned to the sect, they would definitely be above everyone else. As soon as they returned to the village, Ning Qi immediately called Little Six into a secret room and set up a formation. With Ning Qi's current strength, this ordinary defensive formation would not be broken without the help of a few 7 tribulation creators. "Boss, did you meet some kind of existence?" Before Ning Qi could speak, Little Six asked. "You've already guessed it?" Ning Qi had a slightly strange look in his eyes. "At the very beginning, I only had a slight guess. But after today, I am already 70 to 80% sure. Otherwise, why would the impassible God Stone take such special care of you and pour all of its power into your body?" Little Six smiled. "That's right." Ning Qi nodded with a solemn expression. "There is an immortal lord behind the impasse divine stone." Little Six sucked in a breath of cold air. The smile on his face instantly disappeared as he looked around vigilantly. Seeing this, Ning Qi smiled. "Don't be afraid. How can it really be an immortal lord? If that's the case, I'm afraid we would have been turned into ashes long ago. Would we still have a chance to return here?" "Phew, boss, don't say it halfway. You're going to scare me to death." Little Six heaved a sigh of relief and rolled his eyes. Even if he met an immortal lord at his peak, he would also tremble in fear. It's just a remnant soul of an immortal lord. Have you heard of this name when you were in the Immortal Clan's mainland? Ning Qi asked. "Immortal Lord Xinggong. Chapter 1805. An imprint that could not be copied. Even Little Six had never heard of Shengong, Immortal Lord's name. This proved that he had existed much earlier than Little Six, and had probably been separated by several eras. Ning Qi's expression was somewhat solemn as he suddenly reached out and drew a line in the air. The immortal spirit Qi immediately formed the 9 imprints that he had seen in the galaxy. The strange thing was that Ning Qi clearly remembered what the imprint looked like, but his immortal spirit Qi was always scattered and he was completely unable to condense the imprint. "Boss, what are you doing?" Little Six looked at Ning Qi strangely. Ning Qi's expression was grave. He finally understood why Shengong Immortal Lord had been so afraid when he had seen the 9 imprint. His current combat strength was comparable to that of a Yuan Venerate, yet he could not even imitate the imprint. There seemed to be some kind of mysterious power in the world that was interfering. This proved that the origin of the 9 imprints was probably extremely terrifying. With a thought, a table, brush, ink, and rice paper appeared in front of Ning Qi. These were all materialized by the power of creation. Ning Qi picked up the brush, closed his eyes, and pondered for a while before starting to copy the imprint with the word Jiang in his memory. Little Six watched from the side. He did not know what Ning Qi wanted to do, but he could sense an unusual aura. Ning Qi had copied about 1/10 of the imprint on the rice paper. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead, and the arm that was holding the brush trembled uncontrollably. Little Six was shocked when he saw this. He looked at the imprint on the rice paper in disbelief, and then at Ning Qi. What was Ning Qi trying to draw? Why was it so difficult? With a whoosh, a ball of flame ignited and the rice paper, brush, and table were all burned to ashes. Ning Qi looked at the ashes on the ground in silence for a long time. Regardless of whether it's immortal Qi or the most ordinary ink, it's impossible to copy them. Could it be that those seemingly ordinary imprints are similar to arrays? "Boss, what are you planning to draw?" Little Six asked solemnly. "1 imprint, or rather, 9 imprints. Unfortunately, I can't even draw one of them." Ning Qi sighed. "Imprint? What imprint?" Little Six was puzzled. "Other than 1 imprint that seems to be the word Jiang, I can't describe the other imprints." Ning Qi smiled bitterly. "Jiang character?" Hearing this, Little Six thought for a long time. In the end, he shook his head. "I can't think of anything about the Jiang imprint. If you can draw it, maybe I'll know a little." Perhaps you don't know this either, but Shengong Immortal Lord recognized those 9 marks and was terrified. For an immortal lord to be so terrified, the power or existence behind those marks must be extremely terrifying. Furthermore, it must be from a very long time ago. Ning Qi said, "I have to say that there are many things in the immortal continent that the ancient Sky Dragon clan has no way of knowing." Little Six nodded calmly. After that, Ning Qi tried to copy it several times. Each time, he could only draw 1/10 of it. Perhaps only when he truly reached the level of a human immortal would he be able to draw the Jiang symbol. Ning Qi believed that Shengong Immortal Master was not the only one in the immortal realm who recognized this symbol. One day, he would find out the meaning of this symbol. When that time came, perhaps he would know the origins of the system. "Little Six, it seems like your source energy is almost fully recovered." Ning Qi's gaze landed on Little Six's elixir field. Given his current cultivation base, he could easily see Little Six's current state. "Not bad. Thanks to Shengong Immortal Master, my source energy has been fully recovered. Give me some time, and I will be able to return to my peak. When that time comes, I will definitely capture Dao Yan and beat him up a few hundred times." Little Six was a little excited at the mention of this topic. "How long will it take for you to return to your peak state?" Ning Qi's eyes lit up. 1,000 years. Give me 1,000 years and that will be enough." Little Six stuck out a finger proudly. "Forget it. With 1,000 years, do you think Dao Yan, Immortal Emperor, has a chance to be beaten up by you?" Ning Qi rolled his eyes. Without waiting for him to refute, Ning Qi continued, "There is no reason to stay in the impasse of death. I am preparing to leave this place. I killed Sun Yen some time ago, and he seems to be a disciple of Dao Yen, Immortal Emperor. Perhaps Dao Yen, Immortal Emperor, has already received the news and is preparing to ambush me outside. How much stronger do you think he is compared to a Yuan venerate existence?" Little Six's expression turned serious when he heard this. Yuan venerate existences are still within the scope of the 9 calamities creation masters. However, they have stayed in this realm for a long time and have a much deeper understanding of the heavenly laws than ordinary 9 calamities creation masters. Their skills are also much stronger. Dao Yen has already taken this step, but because he cannot find a way to go to the immortal tribe's mainland, he is still not considered a true human immortal. However, he is much stronger than a Yuan venerate existence. However, you can rest assured that Dao Yen is as timid as a mouse and only dares to plot against others. Even I did not dare to come to the impasse of death when I was at my peak, let alone him. He will definitely not come close to this place. He will not even come to the 9 desolate. He cannot become a human immortal if he cannot go to the immortal tribe's mainland? Ning Qi's eyes flashed with a hint of doubt. Because this is the limit of the heavenly laws here. If you want to break through the limit and become a human immortal, you must set foot on the immortal tribe's mainland and obtain the recognition of the immortal tribe's heavenly laws. Little Six said. I see. Ning Qi's eyes flashed with a hint of understanding. According to Little Six, Dao Yen's celestial emperor had already broken through the shackles of the 9 calamities creation masters. However, because of the restrictions of the heavenly laws, he could not truly possess the power of a human immortal. 3 days later, because Zhang Qinghua and the others had decided to stay in the despair land of death, Ning Qi passed the position of village chief to Zhang Qinghua. As for him, he took the cold sky saintess, Wang Lin, and the others into the fortune domain and prepared to leave the despair land of death. With Sakya Luanhui in charge of the cloud rising village, Zhang Qinghua and Ji Kuei did not need to worry about anyone disobeying them or rebelling. After all, aside from Grandma Long and the others, the only other 8 calamities creation master in the despair land of death was Sakya Luanhui. Although his golden body had been broken, after several years of cultivation, his strength was slowly recovering. At least a 7 calamities creation master like Sakya Huijing was no threat to him. This is it. Hu Qingzi excitedly pointed at the giant door made of blue energy. Why are you so excited? There might be a large group of heavenly foxes lying in ambush outside. Chapter 1806. The clone of Yuan venerate heavenly venerates, so what? With Big Brother around, those foxes definitely can't kill me. Hu Qingzi chuckled. I think you've already guessed it, that's why you're so happy. But it's a piece of cake for me to help you solve the problem of the Celestial Fox clan, but you have to tell me what they want from you. Ning Qi chuckled. Didn't you say you wouldn't ask? Hu Qingzi pouted. Are you going to tell me or not? I won't. Then I won't know you when I go out. You can solve the problem yourself. You can either stay in Cloud Rising Village, and don't leave the perilous realm of death. I don't think the Skyfox tribe will dare to send experts here to die. You can cultivate here in peace. When you break through to the 9 Tribulation Creator level, you can go to the Skyfox tribe and take revenge yourself. How long will that take? The divine power of the impassable realm divine stone has been sucked dry by you. Alright, help me solve the problem of the Skyfox tribe and I'll tell you what that thing is. Hu Qingzi finally chose to compromise. Ning Qi didn't really want to know, as he was sure that he would help if Hu Qingzi asked for his help. However, it was fun to tease this fox. It's a deal then. Let's go. Ning Qi smiled. The two of them stepped into the enormous blue door, and in the next moment, they left the impasse of death. There seemed to be a large group of cultivators outside, preparing to enter the impasse of death. When they saw Ning Qi and Hu Qing, their faces filled with respect, and they made way for them. This scene was very similar to when Ning Qi and Hu Qing had entered the impasse of death. After Ning Qi and Hu Qingzi passed through the crowd, the group of cultivators rushed through the giant blue door excitedly. At that moment, several gazes fell on Hu Qingzi from afar. "Big brother, shall we go to the Sky Fox Valley now?" Hu Qingzi asked excitedly. Various images of Ning Qi suppressing the Sky Fox Valley had already appeared in his mind. Just thinking about it made him excited. "Why are we going to the Sky Fox Valley? Isn't it better to wait for them here? Let's go. They'll be here in a few days. We don't need to make a trip." Ning Qi chuckled. When Hu Qing heard this, he let out a sigh of disappointment and followed behind Ning Qi. When they entered the human camp's market, a young cultivator with a faint smile on his face walked toward the two of them. "Sir," just as the young cultivator opened his mouth, Ning Qi smashed his head with a palm. When the nearby cultivators saw this, they immediately revealed a look of fear. This guy killed people without saying a word. Could he be an evil cultivator? It's best not to provoke this kind of cultivator. The nearby cultivators thought so, and averted their gazes, not daring to look at Ning Qi and Hu Qing. "Big brother, why did you suddenly kill him? Is he your enemy?" Hu Qing exclaimed. "Look." Ning Qi smiled. When Hu Qing heard this, his gaze fell on the young cultivator's corpse. A soul-devouring bug the size of a fist slowly appeared on his body. The bug's gaze was deep as it glanced at Ning Qi. It wanted to fly away, but a strand of celestial spiritual energy pierced through its head. The soul-devouring bug was destroyed by Ning Qi. Soul-devouring bug. So it's Yuan Venerate Heavenly Gu's subordinate. "Big brother, you killed the hidden immortal Venerate and now you've killed one of his subordinate. I'm afraid Yuan Venerate Heavenly Gu won't let you off. Why don't we put aside the matter of the Sky Fox Valley and leave this place to return to the outside world?" Hu Qingzi's eyes revealed a trace of fear. From her point of view, although Ning Qi's battle power was strong, and he had absorbed all the power of the impassible Godstone, he was still a seven-tribulation creator. At most, he could be on par with an ordinary nine-tribulation creator, and that was already shocking enough. He probably wouldn't be a match for a Yuan Venerate. "You're wrong. I didn't kill Yuan Venerate Heavenly Gu's subordinate." Ning Qi chuckled as a hint of mockery flashed in his eyes. "What? Who is he then? Could the soul-devouring bugs have already swept through the 9 desolations?" Hu Qing was a little frightened. If that was the case, wouldn't the world experience another great calamity? "I don't know how many bugs Yuan Venerate Heavenly Gu released, but this guy is not ordinary. He is Yuan Venerate Heavenly Gu." Ning Qi smiled. "He is Yuan Venerate Heavenly Gu? How is this possible?" Hu Qing looked at the corpse on the ground in disbelief, and then at Ning Qi. No matter what, she was unwilling to accept this fact. Yuan Venerate Heavenly Gu was an entity that had suppressed the 9 desolations for countless years. Even the Sky Fox tribe patriarchs had to bow respectfully when they saw him. How could such an entity die so easily at the hands of Ning Qi? To be precise, he is Yuan Venerate Heavenly Gu's clone. His strength is similar to that of the hidden immortal Venerate. Ning Qi chuckled and pulled Hu Qing towards a restaurant in the distance. Hu Qing looked back 3 times with every step. Even if it was Yuan Venerate Heavenly Gu's clone, it was still shocking. Inside a secret chamber, a middle-aged cultivator slowly opened his eyes. His eyes flashed with cold lightning, causing the dark secret chamber to light up for a moment. "He killed 2 of my personal disciples and my clone. His actions were swift and decisive. On the surface, he is only a 7-tribulation creator, but his combat strength is already at the level of a 9-tribulation creator. Ning Beixian, huh? Interesting. Could this person be related to Dao Yan?" Unfortunately, the demonic corpse has gone to see his senior brother. I can only test him myself. The middle-aged man pondered for a moment before he sneered and left the secret chamber. Jade Water City, City Lord Palace. Immortal Yushui was sitting opposite a beautiful middle-aged woman. Young City Lord Cho Ing stood respectfully behind Immortal Yushui, while Immortal Fox, who had already inherited the position of the sacred fox, stood quietly behind the beautiful middle-aged woman. At that moment, a white light flashed and landed in front of the beautiful middle-aged woman. It was a snow-white little fox that bowed respectfully and said, "Lord Fox Venerate, traces of Hu Churing have been discovered. The human race cultivator that was with her has also appeared. The two of them have just come out of the desperate perilous realm and are currently in the market of the human race." Got it. The beautiful middle-aged woman smiled faintly before turning to Immortal Yushui. "Immortal Venerate, are you willing to go with me and watch a good show?" Immortal Yushui smiled. "How could I refuse an invitation from Fox Venerate Ziwei?" "Immortal Venerate, you must be joking." Chapter 1807. Chapter 1807. Chapter 1807. We meet again in the human race's camp market. Ning Qi and Hu Qingzi had been enjoying all sorts of delicacies over the past few days. One day, as the two of them were feasting on a roasted leg of lamb, several figures walked up to them. "Oh, it's you. Do you want to sit down and eat with us?" Ning Qi smiled. Shi Wuming was somewhat flattered, and a trace of astonishment appeared on his face. He was lucky enough to survive the desperate situation this time, and he already knew that Ning Qi was Ning Beixian, who was ranked first on the combat power list and battle points list. He even saw the scene of Ning Qi killing Feng Qingxue with his own eyes. However, at that time, Shi Wuming didn't dare to show his face, fearing that he would be killed by Ning Qi for offending Ning Qi. Hu Qingzi glanced at Shi Wuming from the corner of his eyes and ignored them. He continued to eat the roasted leg of lamb in his hands. The ingredients used to make the lamb leg were extremely top-notch, and the taste was just too delicious. Senior Ning, this is an elder of my family. He wants to meet you after hearing about your deeds," Shi Wuming said respectfully. Shi Wuming spoke respectfully. There were 3 other cultivators who came with Shi Wuming. 2 of them were clearly of the same generation as him, but the one in the lead exuded a faint aura of an 8 tribulation creator. He cupped his hands at Ning Qi and smiled. "Brother Ning, I'm Shi Yanxin. I've heard that Brother Ning was able to defeat Quanglan in the realm of death this time, and I'm very impressed. I've also learned from Wuming about the plans and objectives of the Thunder Sovereign and the other 2. If it weren't for Brother Ning, I'm sure that the genius of my blood puppet clan, a rare genius that only appears once in a million years, would have died in the conspiracy of those 3. Shi Wuming looked slightly embarrassed. He had originally been preparing to fight Ning Qi again in the future. However, when he had seen Feng Qingxue die at Ning Qi's hands, he had realized that Ning Qi had already been merciful and spared his life. Otherwise, he wouldn't even have had the chance to enter the desperate situation of death. It's just a passing matter. Brother Shi, since you know what happened in the desperate situation of death, aren't you afraid that Yuan Venerate Heavenly Gu and Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse will implicate you? Their personal disciple died in my hands," Ning Qi said with a smile. There was some curiosity in his eyes. He did not know what Shi Yanxin's purpose was. Logically speaking, if they knew the truth, they should hide as far as possible. Why did they not retreat but advance instead? The other customers in the restaurant didn't seem to hear these words. They just looked at Shi Yanxin and the others with curious gazes. After all, it wasn't easy to see the cultivators of the Blood Puppet Clan, not to mention that this was the market of the human clan. Ning Qi wasn't surprised. From the moment Shi Yanxin entered the shop, she had set up a soundproof array. Other cultivators definitely wouldn't be able to hear their conversation. "I won't hide it from you," Shi Yanxin's face turned solemn. Following Ning Qi's signal, she sat opposite Ning Qi. Shi Wuming and the other two remained standing, not daring to sit down. I heard from Wu Ming that soul-devouring insects appeared in the impasse battlefield. Even the hidden immortal Taoist was transformed from the soul-devouring insects. I wonder if this is true? Snake Blazing Heart looked at Ning Qi with a solemn expression. That's right, Reverend Hidden Immortal and the rest were all transformed from soul-devouring insects. Ning Qi smiled and nodded. Shi Yanxin then asked, could Yuan Venerate Heavenly Gu also be a soul-devouring insect? Ning Qi looked at her strangely. Do you still need to ask? If he isn't a soul-devouring insect, what is he? A few days ago, one of his clones died in my hands in this very market. Hiss, Shi Yanxin and the others gasped, not because of the news that Yuan Venerate Heavenly Gu was a soul-devouring insect, but because Yuan Venerate Heavenly Gu's clone had actually died in Ning Qi's hands. This news shocked them greatly. However, after the initial shock, Shi Yanxin looked delighted. Brother Snake, just say what you want to say. Ning Qi suddenly raised his head and glanced outside the door with a smile on his face. Hu Qingzi, who was eating a lamb leg with relish, seemed to sense something and looked outside excitedly. Here's what happened. 4,000 years ago, the blood puppet race's patriarch went to see Yuan Venerate Heavenly Gu once. However, ever since then, the patriarch's temperament seemed to have changed. First, it was the patriarch, and then the people around the patriarch. Each and every one of them slowly changed. One time, a guard of the patriarch even tried to sneak an attack on me when I was out with him. In the end, I killed him. I saw a bug fly out of his corpse and disappear in an instant. I couldn't suppress it in time. I always felt that this was strange, but after listening to Wu Ming, perhaps this is enough to explain why the patriarch's temperament changed so much. Shi Yanxin said, your guess is correct. Your patriarch has probably been parasitized by the soul-devouring insect. Ning Qi nodded. The expressions of Shi Wuming and the other two changed drastically. Shi Yanxin asked, Brother Ning, if the patriarch has really been parasitized by the soul-devouring insect, is there any way to remedy it? So many years have passed since 4,000 years ago. Your patriarch's spiritual consciousness should have been completely devoured by the soul-devouring insect. I'm afraid that even an immortal wouldn't be able to remedy it. Ning Qi shook his head. Shi Yanxin's face turned pale. Suddenly, Ning Qi chuckled. Brother Snake, I have guessed. If you are not in a hurry, we can discuss this in detail later. All right. Shi Yanxian was startled for a moment, then nodded and looked outside the door. There was a group of cultivators walking in from outside the door. When he saw the faces of the two cultivators leading the group, his expression suddenly changed. Immortal Venerate Jade Water and Fox Venerate Ziwei? Why did the two of them come together? Could they be? Shi Yanxin subconsciously looked at Ning Qi, only to see Ning Qi smiling at Immortal Venerate Jade Water. Immortal Venerate Jade Water, we meet again. Immortal Venerate Jade Water. Shi Yanxin had already removed the soundproof array. When the cultivators in the shop heard this, they looked at the newcomer in disbelief. Their faces were filled with shock and uncertainty. I said that you won't be so lucky the next time we meet. Immortal Venerate Jade Water smiled and nodded. Choing stared at Ning Qi. It was this person who had caused him to lose face in front of Fairy Fox and his master. In his mind, he was already thinking of ways to torture this person after suppressing him. Who knows? Ning Qi smiled. Fairy Fox's gaze landed on Hu Qingzi. Her lips curled into a cold smile. However, she did not speak. She was not the one in charge today. Fox Supremacy Ziwei glanced at Ning Qi and looked at Hu Qingzi. Hu Qingzi, do you want to follow me back to Sky Fox Valley, or do you want me to catch you? Old Fox, come and catch me if you can. I'll sit here. Hu Qingzi slammed the table and looked at Fox Supremacy Ziwei proudly. Fox Supremacy Ziwei's expression changed. Fairy Fox, Cho Ying, and Immortal Venerate Jade Water frowned. Chapter 1808. Fight. Fox Sovereign Ziwei suddenly saw Shi Yanxin, and a hint of mockery appeared in her eyes. So it's Shi Yanxin. Your Blood Abyssal clan wants to interfere with the internal affairs of my Sky Fox clan? Shi Yanxin was slightly startled. It seemed that she had been misunderstood by Fox Sovereign Ziwei. She glanced at Hu Qingzi, then at Ning Qi, and finally decided not to speak. Old Fox, the matter between us has nothing to do with the Blood Abyssal clan. Come and catch me. Come. Hu Qingzi called out mockingly. The crowd did not know why she was so excited when facing Fox Sovereign Ziwei and Immortal Sovereign Yushui. Even Fairy Fox, who had always thought that she understood Hu Qingzi, was puzzled. If the Blood Abyssal clan was not her backer, could it be him? Fairy Fox's gaze fell on Ning Qi, a hint of disbelief in her eyes. This person's battle strength was indeed strong, but no matter how strong he was, he could not be stronger than a 9 Tribulation creator. Back when they had entered the realm of death, he had almost been killed by Immortal Sovereign Yushui. She knew about this. What did your mother, Fox Sovereign Wang Qing, teach you? You don't know any etiquette. Fox Sovereign Ziwei said lightly. Hu Qingzi acted as if someone had stepped on her tail, and she exploded in anger. She cursed at Fox Noble Ziwei. Her curses were extremely unpleasant, but when she saw the faint mocking smile on Fox Noble Ziwei's face, she immediately came to her senses and shut her mouth. Fox Noble Ziwei was clearly trying to provoke her, and she had fallen for it. All right, don't talk anymore. Ning Qi patted Hu Qingzi's head. Hu Qingzi made a sound of acknowledgement and kept quiet, lowering her head to eat the roasted lamb leg again. Ning Qi's gaze fell on Fox Sovereign Ziwei and he smiled. Hu Qingzi will be under my protection from now on. If you want to cause trouble, come find me. However, there is something I must remind you of. I am not a very patient person. Perhaps one day when I am unhappy, I will personally make a trip to Skyfox Valley. What a joke! Seeing Ning Qi's expression, Cho Ying's heart was filled with anger, and he could not help but mock. Who do you think you are? How dare you threaten to go to Skyfox Valley? Let's talk if you can get out of here today. Ning Qi looked at him with a smile and said, Who do you think you are? Let's not talk about whether I can walk out of here today, but you definitely can't. Back then, your master wanted me to take a palm strike from him. Today, you will take a palm strike from me. If you are lucky enough to survive, I will let you go. What do you think? Cho Ying was so angry that he laughed. Although he was not as strong as Ning Qi, it was impossible for Ning Qi to kill him with one blow. If I'm not wrong, you're just a 7 Tribulation creator, right? With your level of cultivation, I'm afraid you're still not mature enough to meddle in the internal affairs of my Sky Fox clan. Fox Sovereign Myrtle smiled. You can try. Ning Qi smiled. His calm demeanor made the cultivators at the scene suspicious. Fox Venerable Ziwei glanced at Venerable Yushui, and Venerable Yushui smiled and said, When this kid entered the realm of death, his cultivation level wasn't even at the 7 Tribulation creator realm. Maybe he hid his cultivation level, or maybe he had some fortuitous encounter, which is why he's so arrogant. If Fox Venerable Ziwei doesn't want to fight, I can do it for you. Then I'll have to trouble Venerable Yushui. Fox Venerable Ziwei smiled. No problem. Venerable Yushui smiled faintly, and her eyes landed on Ning Qi. Back then, you took a blow from me and didn't die, which is indeed enough to make people arrogant. But today, I won't bet with you, and I won't just hit you with one blow. But I appreciate talent. If you're willing to kneel and kowtow to me, then return this little fox to Fox Venerable Ziwei. I can spare your life today. Master? Cho Ying's eyes were filled with disbelief. He never thought that Venerable Yushui would want to take him as a disciple. With Ning Qi's cultivation level and talent, if Ning Qi became his junior brother, His position as the young city lord would be snatched away at any moment. Fairy Fox was also a little surprised. Her beautiful eyes flickered. Venerable Yushui personally said that she wanted to take Ning Qi as a disciple, which was enough to show that Ning Qi's potential was extraordinary. Fox Venerable Ziwei glanced at Venerable Yushui and frowned. How about this, you take a blow from me today? If you don't die, I'll let you leave. Ning Qi said faintly. Venerable Yushui's face turned cold. He did not expect Ning Qi to be so arrogant. He was so angry that he laughed. Fine, I'll take a blow from you today. Let's see what you've obtained in the despair of death. Shi Yanxin thought of Ning Qi's description of Shi Wuming. Ning Qi easily suppressed the Thunder Emperor and Venerable Hidden Immortal. Then, he obtained all the divine power of the Impasse Divine Stone and broke through 2 realms. His current battle strength was probably unfathomable, but at most, he could touch the edge of the 9 Tribulations Creator? Before the 9 Tribulations, there were geniuses who could challenge those of a higher realm. Shi Yanxin had seen such geniuses before. In every era there would be 1 or 2 of them. It was normal. But the gap between the 8 Tribulations and the 9 Tribulations far exceeded the gap between the 1 Tribulation Creator and the 8 Tribulation Creator. Shi Yanxin had lived for so many years, but she had never heard of or seen a genius who could challenge a 9 Tribulations Creator. Thinking of this, he looked at Ning Qi with a hint of suspicion and curiosity in his eyes. Phew! Choing heaved a sigh of relief and looked at Ning Qi mockingly. The other party had rejected his master's invitation. Today's ending was destined to be death. Ning Qi stood up and walked straight to Immortal Yushui. After sizing her up, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Then I won't stand on ceremony. Are you ready? Let's fight. Immortal Yushui stood with her hands behind her back and said faintly, If you can hurt a single hair of mine, I'll consider it your win. Puff. Ning Qi's palm struck Immortal Jadewater's chest. Next, a booming sound rang out and Immortal Jadewater's figure was sent flying. His figure smashed into the doorpost before falling into the shop across the street. When the cultivators on the street saw that, they stopped moving and turned to look at Ning Qi. Seems like I was too heavy-handed. Ning Qi looked at his palm and smiled. Even Ning Qi himself was surprised by the power of that palm. It was too strong and too terrifying. When he was still a 5 Tribulation Creator, with the addition of the ancient Immortal Divine Ring, Ning Qi's pure physical strength at that time could not be compared to a 9 Tribulation Creator. If the unit of strength at that time was converted to 1, Ning Qi's current strength was probably above 30. It had increased by 30 times. Chapter 1809. Do you understand? Everyone stared at Ning Qi in disbelief. Was the guy who was sent flying just now really Immortal Yushui? Could he be a fake? Otherwise, how could a 9 Tribulation Creator be sent flying so easily? Choing stood rooted to the ground, dumbfounded. Then, he immediately reacted and glanced at Ning Qi in horror before turning around and dashing in the direction where Immortal Yushui had landed. Fairy Fox stared at Ning Qi with her mouth agape. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. How could his strength soar to such a level after entering a desperate situation of death? You're a 9 Tribulation Creator? Fox Supremacy Ziwei was stunned for a moment. Her eyes were filled with fear as a trace of suspicion arose in her heart. Could this human cultivator have been hired by Fox Supremacy, Wang Qing, to take care of her daughter? Shi Yanxin gasped and subconsciously glanced at Shi Wuming. Seeing that he was also shocked, she was sure that Shi Wuming definitely did not know that Ning Qi's battle strength had reached such a level. After the shock, Shi Yanxin's eyes revealed a trace of joy. She had something to ask Ning Qi for help. The stronger Ning Qi's battle strength was, the better it would be for her. Ning Qi smiled and did not answer Fox Supremacy Ziwei's question. Instead, he smiled and said, "Do you remember what I said just now? If you come looking for trouble with Little Fox again, I'll personally make a trip to Sky Fox Valley. Fox Supremacy Ziwei fell into silence. Looks like we still have to fight. Ning Qi smiled faintly and walked directly towards Fox Venerable Ziwei. Fox Venerable Ziwei's pupils instantly shrank. Then, a mighty power of creation swept out from her body. Regardless of whether it was the cultivators in the shop or Shi Yanxin and the others, when they felt this terrifying aura, a layer of cold sweat appeared on their foreheads. They felt like they couldn't breathe. Creation Domain. Fox Supremacy Ziwei immediately displayed the creation domain, intending to suck Ning Qi into it. After seeing immortal Yushui being sent flying with a palm, she would not be foolish enough to fight Ning Qi in close combat. Ning Qi smiled and waved his hand to punch out. The creation domain of Fox Supremacy Ziwei was shattered. Then, Ning Qi appeared in front of her and gently grabbed her neck, slowly lifting her up. You! Fox Supremacy Purple Myrtle's face was deathly pale. The shattering of the good fortune domain had already severely injured her in an instant. Now, her neck was tightly gripped by Ning Qi's hand. The terrifying power that was transmitted from Ning Qi's hand made her feel a deep sense of fear. I said, "Don't cause any more trouble for the little fox. Do you understand?" Ning Qi said lightly. From the moment Ning Qi shattered the creation domain to the moment he suppressed Fox Supremacy Purple Myrtle, it took less than a breath of time. His actions were so fast that by the time everyone saw it clearly, Ning Qi had already grabbed Fox Supremacy Purple Myrtle by the neck. When Fairy Fox saw this scene, she subconsciously attacked Ning Qi, but when her attack landed on Ning Qi, it was like a pebble being thrown into the sea. It didn't even cause a splash. Fairy Fox looked at this scene in a daze. Ning Qi glanced at her and suddenly slapped her face. Fairy Fox screamed and flew back. At this time, Choing happened to be supporting Immortal Venerate Jade Water out of a shop that had been smashed into ruins on the opposite street. When he saw Fairy Fox land heavily in front of him, he immediately looked into the shop in shock. When the two of them saw Ning Qi lift Fox Supremacy Purple Myrtle high up, Cho Ying's body couldn't help but tremble. Blood flowed from the corner of Immortal Venerate Jade Water's mouth. She looked at Ning Qi in shock and disbelief. "Sly Fox, do you think that you can capture me after becoming a holy fox and bringing Fox Supremacy Purple Myrtle with you?" Hu Qingzi's body turned into a stream of light and appeared in front of Fairy Fox. At this moment, her beautiful face had already been destroyed by Ning Qi's slap. Her left cheek was swollen, and Hu Qingzi looked down at her mockingly. Fairy Fox was dizzy from the slap. When she heard Hu Qingzi's voice, she opened her eyes with difficulty, a trace of fear in them. "Zhu Zi, I'll leave her to you. If you want to kill her, do as you see fit." Ning Qi smiled. "No, don't kill me. I'll return the position of Holy Fox to you. I'll never step into Sky Fox Valley again. Spare my life." Fairy Fox felt that she was on the brink of death and immediately begged for mercy without any hesitation. "All right, I won't kill you." Hu Qingzi was silent for a while, then she turned and walked towards Ning Qi. The moment she turned, the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. When Fairy Fox saw this, her eyes flashed. She bounced up from the ground and attacked Hu Qingzi from behind. Because it was a sudden attack, Hu Qingzi couldn't react in time and was instantly restrained by Fairy Fox. "Let go of Fox Supremacy Purple Myrtle, or I'll kill her." Fairy Fox held on to Hu Qingzi's neck tightly as she glared at Ning Qi and said sternly, "Sly Fox, I gave you a way out, but you chose the path to death. Don't blame me," Hu Qingzi sighed. When Fairy Fox heard this, fear rose in her heart. Her life was in her hands, so why was she so calm? Without waiting for her to understand this point, Fairy Fox's head suddenly tilted back. Then, the nearby cultivators saw a bloody hole appear in the middle of her eyebrows. Then, Fairy Fox's pupils gradually dilated, and her lifeless body fell to the ground with a loud bang, turning into a white fox. When Choing saw Fairy Fox die in front of him, A hint of heartache flashed in his eyes. But this trace of heartache was immediately replaced by fear. I promise you that from now on, Sky Fox Valley won't cause trouble for the little fox. Please let me down. Fox Supremacy Purple Myrtle suddenly said. Ning-Chi smiled and released his hand. After Fox Supremacy Purple Myrtle fell to the ground, there was a very obvious mark on her neck. She looked at Ning-Chi deeply, then turned and left without looking at Hu Qingzi. When she passed by Fairy Jadewater, Fox Supremacy Purple Myrtle paused for a moment, looked at Fairy Jadewater, then left the place. Fairy Jadewater, I'll keep my promise. Since you didn't die under my palm, you can leave now. Ning-Chi smiled at Fairy Jadewater. What on earth did he get in the despair of death? Fairy Jadewater was deeply puzzled, but she did not stay there any longer. She prepared to leave with Cho-Ying. Hey, wait a moment. You two might have misunderstood. I said Fairy Jadewater can leave. This young city lord hasn't even taken my palm. Where do you think you're going? Ning-Chi's voice came from behind. The two of them froze. Cho-Ying's face was filled with extreme fear as he looked at his master for help. Chapter 1810. Master won't let you die. Immortal Yushui frowned and wanted to plead for mercy, but he suddenly noticed a trace of anticipation in Ning-Chi's eyes. He was slightly stunned and immediately kept his mouth shut. Master, save me! Cho-Ying quickly asked for help when he realized that Immortal Yushui was about to give up on him. Don't be afraid. Your master made a pact with me with a single palm strike. Today, I will also make a pact with you with a single palm strike. If you can survive my palm strike, I will let you leave this place safely. I will not go back on my word. Ning-Chi smiled. Giving him a taste of his own medicine, Immortal Yushui looked at Ning-Chi with an ugly expression. The surrounding cultivators whispered among themselves. Some of the newcomers didn't know Immortal Yushui's identity, but when they found out about her true identity from others, they were shocked. The city lord of Jade Water City, a 9 tribulation creator, was at a disadvantage in front of this young cultivator? Go! Immortal Yushui said calmly. Master, how can I take a palm from him? Cho-Ying was terrified and regretful. If he had known that this would happen, he would not have come even if he had died. Master won't let you die. Don't worry. Immortal Yushui transmitted his voice. Cho-Ying's eyes were filled with hope. He thought that Immortal Yushui still had some trump card that could save his life. Thinking of this, Cho-Ying gritted his teeth and took a few steps forward, staring at Ning-Chi. Come on. I'll take a palm from you. Good, you've got guts. Ning-Chi smiled and nodded. He casually threw out a palm, but the space around him shattered. When the palm landed on Cho-Ying's body, his skin and flesh shattered along with the space around him, turning into a white skeleton. When the surrounding cultivators saw this, they looked at Ning-Chi with fear in their eyes. Even though Cho-Ying's cultivation wasn't considered top-tier in the 9 Desolation Realms, he was still a 7 Tribulation creator, which was a lot stronger than most of the cultivators present. Yet, such an existence was easily smashed into a pile of bones by his opponent. It was utterly terrifying. Honored Immortal Yushui looked at this scene indifferently. After Cho-Ying died, he nodded at Ning-Chi and turned to leave without any reluctance. This old man is really patient. Ning-Chi looked at his back with a hint of mockery in his eyes. Far away in the void, a figure stood quietly. He had seen everything from Fox Supremacy Myrtle being suppressed by Ning-Chi to Cho-Ying being killed by Ning-Chi. After Immortal Supremacy Jadewater left, the owner of the figure took a deep look at Ning-Chi before turning to leave. Ding! Congratulations to host for successfully killing a 7 Tribulation creator. 100 creation points are rewarded. The system notification sounded. Ning-Chi curled his lips. He was already a 7 Tribulation creator, and if he wanted to break through to the 8 Tribulation creator realm, He would need 100 million fortune points. Hence, 100 fortune points was like a drop in the bucket to Ningqi. Simply killing people for fortune points was no longer an easy path to walk. He needed something similar to the impassable God Stone to break through to the 8 Tribulation Creator realm in a short period of time. However, such an opportunity was hard to come by in 10,000 years, and it was hard to say if he would have such luck the next time. Senior Ning. Shi Yanxin took a step forward and looked at Ningqi carefully. She had also changed the way she addressed Ningqi from Brother Ning to Senior Ning. After witnessing how Ningqi easily suppressed Fox Supremacy Myrtle, Shi Yanxin had already regarded Ningqi as a 9 Tribulation Creator. As for the aura of a 7 Tribulation Creator, it was definitely a disguise. Brother Snake, you don't have to be so polite. Ningqi smiled. Senior Ning, my cultivation base is too low. How could I dare to call you brother? Shi Yanxin said respectfully. Up to you. Do you have anything else? If not, I'm going to leave. Ningqi smiled. Senior Ning, if the leader of the blood puppet race is infected by the soul-devouring worms, I'm afraid it won't take long for the entire blood puppet race to turn into soul-devouring worms. I wonder if Senior Ning can help me get rid of all the soul-devouring worms in the blood puppet race. If Senior Ning has any instructions for me in the future, I won't dare disobey. Shi Yanxin looked at Ningqi expectantly. Even if I help you get rid of the soul-devouring worms, can you guarantee that Yuan Venerate Heavenly Goo won't cause trouble for you? He was watching over there just now. Ningqi smiled and pointed to the void in the distance. When Yuan Venerate Heavenly Goo had arrived, Ningqi had sensed an aura that was very similar to the aura of the hidden immortal perfected being. However, this aura was much stronger, so he didn't need to look to know who it was. What? Yuan Venerate Heavenly Goo just arrived? But why? Why didn't he attack Ningqi? Shi Yanxin didn't finish her sentence, but she already knew the answer in her heart. She looked at Ningqi with even more respect. Yuan Venerate Heavenly Goo probably didn't make a move because he wasn't confident. Senior Ning's combat strength might have already reached the level of a Yuan Venerate. Shi Yanxin recalled how he had easily suppressed Fox Venerate Ziwei and sent Immortal Venerate Jade Water flying with a single palm strike. Shi Yanxin felt that her conjecture was absolutely correct. Senior, I really don't know any other way to protect the blood puppet race. Shi Yanxin smiled bitterly. Move. Ningqi chuckled. Move all of you away from the 9 great desolations. Only then will the blood puppet race be safe. Move away from the 9 great desolations. The faces of Shi Yanxin and the others changed slightly. The blood puppet race had been in the 9 great desolations for tens of thousands of years. Their roots were all here. Where could they go if they moved away from the 9 great desolations? There was a hint of hesitation in her eyes. At that moment, Shi Wuming said softly, Uncle Yanxin, Senior Ning is right. The safest place for the blood puppet race is to leave the 9 great desolations. Otherwise, if Yuan Venerate Heavenly Goo is around, the blood puppet race might be in danger of becoming soul-devouring worms. But where can we go? Shi Yanxin was perplexed. Shi Wuming was a rare supreme talent of the blood puppet race. His words naturally carried some weight. Shi Yanxin was already tempted, but he was still a little uncertain about the future of the blood puppet race. Brother Shi, how many people are there in your race? Ningqi asked with a smile. There are about 300 pure bloodlines and a few thousand mixed bloodlines, Shi Yanxin said. Then let me introduce you to a place. If Brother Shi doesn't mind, you can live like at home there. Ningqi smiled. Shi Yanxin's eyes lit up. If he wasn't wrong, Ningqi was trying to recruit them? Senior Ning, shall we discuss this in detail? Shi Yanxin asked cautiously. Time is precious. Let's talk as we walk. Chapter 1811. A countercharge blood python desolate domain. In this primeval forest, One could see huge pythons that were as thick as buckets and over 100 feet long. These pythons basically did not have any intelligence. However, they possessed the power of Do Dan realm, eternal life realm, and even law phase realm. Some of them were hanging high up on the branches of the huge trees. Their ice-cold eyes were motionlessly staring in a certain direction, as if they were waiting for the arrival of their prey. Some of them were roaming in the forest like guards guarding their territory. In the place where I was, the demonic beasts had the ability to take human form and gain intelligence before reaching Do Dan realm. These pythons may be strong, but they are muddle-headed. I am afraid that they will only gain intelligence after breaking through to the Creator realm. Senior Ning is right. Our snake clan is the most difficult to gain intelligence among the thousands of clans. Perhaps we are born this way. According to the legends, the ancestor of the Blood Python clan was a small snake that cultivated to the 9 Calamity Creator realm. He finally broke through the bottleneck and ascended to the heavens. That was how the bloodline of the Blood Python clan improved. After that, each of our clansmen was born with intelligence, just like the human clan. Shi Yenshin said respectfully. Tens of thousands of pythons retreated wherever Ning Qi and his group passed. Although they did not have intelligence, they could feel the royal aura from Shi Yenshin and the others. Soon after passing through the primeval forest, they saw a huge city that looked like an ancient giant beast in the mountain range. Senior Ning, that is the Blood Python city. When I came out last time, I have confirmed that there were 50 clansmen who had changed their temperament. I wonder if there were any changes this time. Shi Yenshin's eyes flashed with worry. Your Blood Python clan should have another 9 Calamity Creator besides the clan leader. However, I can only feel the aura of one 9 Calamity Creator. Where is the other one? Ning Qi said faintly. A trace of hesitation flashed in Snake Flame Heart's eyes, as if she was making a very important decision. Seeing this, Hu Qingzi could not help but mock. You don't have to say it if you don't want to. Senior Ning, our Blood Mantis tribe does indeed have 2 venerable pythons. The other one is currently in the ectasis stage and is personally suppressed by the Patriarch in the blood pool. During this period of time, Venerable Python seems to be dead. Even if an enemy arrives here, she will not be able to wake up. This information is only known by the upper echelons of our Blood Mantis tribe. We are afraid that if news of this spreads, the enemies of our Blood Mantis tribe will take the opportunity to seek revenge. However, I do not know if Venerable Python has already been parasitized by the soul-devouring insects. Shi Yenshin said in a low voice. A Venerable Python has entered the ectasis stage? Your blood-maned clan has offended a lot of enemies. Normally, with 2 venerable pythons around, no one would dare to come and seek revenge. If this news were to spread, I can guarantee that in less than a month, the entire blood-maned desolate domain would be flattened. Hu Qing exclaimed. Blood pool. Oh, I see it. Ning Qi nodded. His divine consciousness entered the huge city, and he did find an extremely cold place. There was a huge pool there, and the water inside was red. However, there was no smell of blood. Obviously, it was not real blood. In the depths of the water, there was a huge shadow looming. It should be Lord Python who had entered the ectasis period. Senior Ning, shall we enter the city? Shi Yenshin asked. Yes. Ning Qi nodded. With Shi Yenshin leading the way, entering the Blood Python city was very smooth. When the cultivators of the Python clan who were guarding the city saw Shi Yenshin and the others, their arrogant and domineering faces immediately turned into respectful expressions. The duties of guarding the city were basically done by the snake cultivators of various clans. The Blood Mantis tribe was only responsible for cultivation. A few of the younger generation would volunteer to become the guards of the elders of the tribe, just to receive guidance from the elders at any time. After all, there were only 300 people in the Blood Mantis tribe. However, there were more than 100,000 snake cultivators in this huge city. There were even quite a number of human cultivators. After entering the city, as long as the cultivators saw Shi Yanxin and the others, their eyes would be filled with respect. Along the way, everyone automatically made way for them. No one dared to come within 3 zhang of Ning Qi and the others. "Senior Ning, do you want to go to my residence first?" Shi Yanxin asked. "Go directly to the place where your patriarch lives. Also, gather your clansmen. I want to see how many of them have been parasitized by the soul-devouring worms." Ning Qi said. "Yes." Shi Yanxin nodded. Under Shi Yanxin's lead, the group soon arrived at the inner city where the blood mantis tribe lived. Ordinary cultivators were not qualified to enter this place. After verifying Shi Yanxin's identity, the guards of the inner city let them in. When they looked at Ning Qi and the others coldly, a strange look flashed through their eyes. "Those 2 guards have also been parasitized by the soul-devouring worms," Ning Qi said lightly. "Even they," Shi Yanxin's face turned ugly. It seemed that the soul-devouring worms did not only parasitize the blood mantis tribe. The other snake cultivators had also become their target. "Hey, cousin Wu Ming, Uncle Yan Xian, why did you suddenly return to the inner city?" A group of cultivators came from the opposite side. The leader had long and narrow eyes. Although he was in human form, his face looked like a snake's face. This person's aura was deep and profound, much stronger than Shi Wu Ming's. It was comparable to Shi Yanxin's, and even slightly stronger. "Senior Ning, this person is the patriarch's son. Shi Wuxue. Has he also been parasitized by the soul-devouring worms?" Shi Yanxin ignored the other and looked at Ning Qi and transmitted her voice. "Yes." Ning Qi nodded lightly. Seeing this, Shi Yanxin suddenly had an idea. He smiled at Shi Wuxue and said, "Wuxue, this time something big happened in the despair land of death. I have an important news to announce. Can Wuxue help gather all the clansmen in the Blood Python City and bring them to the Holy Land of the clan?" "Important news?" Shi Wuxue's eyes flashed with suspicion. He glanced at Ning Qi and Hu Qing, smiled and said to Shi Yanxin, "It's nothing." "Then I'll trouble Wuxue." Shi Yanxin nodded with a smile. Shi Wuxue gave Ning Qi a deep look, then turned around and left with the other cultivators. Under Shi Yanxin's guidance, Ning Qi and the others arrived at the Holy Land of the Blood Python clan. From time to time, there would be cultivators of the clan breaking through the air. Clearly, Shi Wuxue's reputation in the clan was very high. In just half an hour, all the cultivators of the clan had reached the Holy Land. At this time, a middle-aged cultivator appeared above everyone. When Shi Yanxin saw him, he subconsciously looked at Ning Qi. "Patriarch." The cultivators of the Blood Python clan saluted the middle-aged man. "Lord Father, Uncle Yanxin said he has an important announcement." Shi Wuxue appeared beside the middle-aged cultivator. "I also have an important announcement. Shi Yanxin betrayed the Blood Python clan and colluded with outsiders to harm the clan. Today I will personally suppress him. I hope everyone will take this as a warning," the middle-aged cultivator said lightly. Chapter 1812. Escape. I betrayed the Blood Abyssal clan? When Shi Yanxin heard the middle-aged cultivator's words, a hint of anger appeared in her eyes. Shi Wuming and the others looked at the middle-aged cultivator in shock and anger. They were a little nervous. Although Ning Qi was right beside them, they were facing the strongest expert of the Blood Abyssal clan, as well as the supreme ruler, the Snake Monarch. "Shi Yanxin, how dare you betray the Blood Abyssal clan?" The nearby cultivators of the Blood Abyssal clan looked at Shi Yanxin angrily. Their cold eyes swept over Ning Qi. "I can smell the scent of a human cultivator. It's that guy. I didn't expect Shi Yanxin to betray us. Damn it. Clan leader, please suppress Shi Yanxin as a warning to others. Don't be fooled by this person. He's not our clan leader. He's a soul-devouring bug," Shi Yanxin said angrily. The cultivators of the Blood Abyssal clan were stunned. They looked at Shi Yanxin as if he was a lunatic. At the same time, their eyes were filled with ridicule. In their view, Shi Yanxin had started to bite others recklessly after being exposed as a traitor by their clan leader. What a joke! How could their clan leader be a soul-devouring bug? The Snake Monarch Sovereign and Shi Wuxue stared at Shi Yanxin and the others with contempt in their eyes. At this moment, four silhouettes broke through the air. Without saying a word, they directly rushed towards Shi Yanxin and the others. Shi Yanxin's eyes revealed a trace of anger. Before he could act, an aura soared into the sky and a white light circled in the air. Puff, puff, puff. The four figures fell heavily to the ground, their heads separated from their bodies. Hiss! Seeing this scene, the cultivators of the Blood Abyssal clan gasped and looked at Ning Qi in disbelief. The four people just now were the only 8th Tribulation Blood Abyssal of the Blood Abyssal clan. Their cultivation was second only to the Snake Monarch and Venerable Python. They were also the personal guards of the Snake Monarch. Such a powerful existence was killed by a human cultivator? Damn it! Shi Yanxin really betrayed the clan. At this moment, they completely believed that Shi Yanxin had betrayed the Blood Abyssal clan. Otherwise, why would the human cultivators he brought attack the Blood Abyssal clan? Shi Wuxue coldly looked at Ning Qi, a trace of dread flashing in his eyes. Then, he looked at the Snake Monarch, waiting for him to give the order. Look, are they soul-devouring insects? Shi Yanxin suddenly pointed at the 4 corpses on the ground and roared. Everyone instinctively looked over, only to see 4 huge bugs emerging from the 4 corpses, flying towards where the Snake Monarch was. However, halfway through their flight, they were sliced into 2 by a saber gleam. With a bang, they disappeared from the world. Camouflage! This was a smokescreen. Shi Yanxin, as a member of the Blood Puppet clan, not only did you betray your clan, but you also want to frame the clan leader. How should you be punished? Some of the Blood Abyssal clan cultivators still couldn't believe what they were seeing. They roared angrily at Shi Yanxin. Their gazes were like swords as they stared at Shi Yanxin, wishing they could chop her into minced meat on the spot. However, some of the older Blood Abyssal cultivators looked at this scene with slight surprise. At the same time, the Snake Monarch's strange behavior over the past several thousand years surfaced in their minds. In the next moment, these cultivators abruptly raised their heads and looked at the Snake Monarch in disbelief. Fool! Haven't you all noticed the clan leader's strange behavior over the past few years? Shi Yanxin said angrily. Brother Snake, most of the Blood Puppet clan cultivators who were possessed by the soul-devouring insects are here. After I kill these soul-devouring insects, you can explain to your clansmen. Ning Qi said indifferently. Thank you, Senior Ning. Shi Yanxin glanced at the clansmen who still misunderstood him, then respectfully bowed to Ning Qi. Arrogant! Let's see how the clan leader will suppress a mere human cultivator. Shi Yanxin, you won't die so easily. How dare you betray our Blood Puppet clan? We will make you beg for death. The cultivators cursed. Ning Qi smiled. His figure flickered on the spot. In just a breath's time, more than 70 Blood Abyssal clan cultivators suddenly fell to the ground. Their heads had already disappeared. These cultivators were either newly ascended geniuses or those who had been cultivating for many years. Their cultivation levels ranged from 1 to 7 tribulations creator. The clansmen around them could not help but be horrified when they saw this scene. They couldn't even see how the other party had attacked, yet their own clansmen had died just like that? Immediately after, soul-devouring insects emerged from these corpses. They had seen their own clansmen being killed by Ning Qi, so they had shrieked and fled in all directions. Where can they run to? Ning Qi's eyes revealed a trace of mockery. With a thought, the immortal Qi attached to the soul-devouring insects instantly exploded, turning them into ashes. Your status among the soul-devouring insects shouldn't be considered low, right? Only Yuan Venerate Heavenly Gu can suppress you. Since you knew that this would happen, why didn't you ask him to come and help? Ning Qi's gaze landed on the snake monarch. I didn't expect you to be stronger than the rumors say. The snake monarch said nonchalantly. The blood abyssal race cultivators who were still alive stared at the snake monarch in disbelief. They thought they had heard wrong. Did their patriarch just admit that he was a soul-devouring insect? Everyone, the patriarch died a long time ago. Now, a soul-devouring insect is hiding in his body. How long are you all going to be so stubborn? If I hadn't asked Senior Ning to come and kill these soul-devouring insects, the blood abyssal race would have been wiped out in no time. Shi Yanxin growled. Is the patriarch really a soul-devouring insect? Isn't this too inconceivable? Given the patriarch's cultivation base, how could his consciousness have been devoured by the soul-devouring insect? Wait, could it be that Yuan Venerate Heavenly Gu is also a soul-devouring insect? Did he sneak attack the patriarch? After figuring this out, the blood abyssal race cultivators ran behind Ning Qi and the others and stared at the two figures in the sky angrily. We've been discovered by them, Shi Wuxue said indifferently. You go first. I'll stay and deal with this kid. The snake monarch smiled. All right. Shi Wuxue nodded with a smile. The conversation between the two didn't sound like that of father and son at all. Instead, Shi Wuxue's status seemed to be higher. At this moment, the cultivators of the blood abyssal race finally believed that the scene in front of them was real. You should stay. Ning Qi smiled at Shi Wuxue. Ning Beixian, you can't keep me here. I only have one question for you. Do you really want to go against the soul-devouring insect race? Shi Wuxue looked at Ning Qi indifferently. Ning Qi didn't answer him. Instead, he gave him a slash. The saber light swept across Shi Wuxue's body. Shi Wuxue smiled faintly. I've said it before. You can't keep me here. Since you've decided to go against the soul-devouring race, then prepare to join us. Shi Wuxue revealed a strange smile. His body instantly disappeared. This isn't his main body. Ning Qi squinted his eyes. His opponent's means had even fooled him. It seemed that he had used an immortal race's divine ability. Chapter 1813. Venerable Snake. The snake monarch's attack engulfed Shi Yanxin and the others. The aura of the Nine Tribulation Creator made them unable to move their bodies. However, in Ning Qi's opinion, the snake monarch's combat strength was weaker than the joyous joy demon Venerate and was about the same as Venerable Jade Water. In that case, there should be 3 levels of the Nine Tribulation Creator. The first level was an ordinary Nine Tribulation like the snake monarch, the second level was the level of the joyous joy demon Venerate, and the third level was the level of the Yuan Venerate. However, there were also strong and weak Yuan Venerates. For example, back in the Dead Man Valley, Tenacious Donkey was weaker than the Corpse Monarch. In the blink of an eye, the Serpent Monarch appeared in front of Ning Qi. It chose to engage in melee combat with Ning Qi. The blood energy of the blood-maned race was strong to begin with. Among the races that specialized in melee combat, it wasn't any weaker than the giant spirit race. The Serpent Monarch's fist landed directly on Ning Qi's chest, causing a thunderous boom. That human race cultivator won't die just like that, right? The blood abyssal race cultivators standing behind Ning Qi and the others watched this scene in horror. In their opinion, the physical strength of the human race was at the bottom of all the major races. Even human race cultivators who specialized in body tempering techniques couldn't compare to the blood abyssal race cultivators who hadn't specially tempered their bodies. Ning Qi lowered his head and glanced at the fist that had landed on his chest before smiling at the snake monarch. Is that all your strength? Hiss, Shi Yanxin and the others, who were standing closest to him, gasped and looked at Ning Qi in disbelief. How strong is Senior Ning's physical body? He can even withstand the full force of the Patriarch's punch so easily? The snake monarch's eyes flashed with fear. Before it could move, its arm was already grabbed by Ningqi. It's my turn. Ningqi smiled and punched the snake monarch's stomach. The snake monarch's body immediately flew backwards. Because its arm was grabbed by Ningqi, it didn't fly out. It looked like a flag fluttering in the wind. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Then, Ningqi landed another punch on his stomach. This punch directly punched through the serpent monarch. The Blood Abyssal clan cultivators present were all in disbelief when they saw this. Although they knew that the serpent monarch might be a soul-devouring worm and was no longer their clan leader, they still felt a little uncomfortable watching the serpent monarch being heavily injured by Ningqi with just 2 punches. Why must you go against my soul-devouring insect clan? The snake monarch spat out a mouthful of blood and stared at Ningqi. I don't know. Maybe I just don't like him. Ningqi smiled. Suddenly, his eyes moved, and he threw the snake monarch emperor in his hand to the ground and punched at the void nearby. A soul-devouring bug screamed and appeared from the void, falling heavily to the ground. Half of its head was smashed by Ningqi, and it was severely injured. Shi Yanxin and the others noticed that although the snake monarch emperor was not dead, it seemed to have lost its mind, lying there without any movement. This insect is the soul-devouring insect that is controlling your clan leader. Right now, it has already left your clan leader's body. Therefore, your clan leader is like a walking corpse. Other than breathing, he can't do anything else. Ningqi explained calmly, then walked in front of the soul-devouring bug and lowered his head. What is your goal? Are you planning to cause another calamity of cultivators, reproduce countless descendants, and control all the races in the central mainland? Hiss hiss hiss, the soul-devouring bug let out a shrill cry and looked at Ningqi with hatred. You don't want to speak human language? Then go on your way. Ningqi smiled and threw a palm at it. The soul-devouring insect didn't seem to think that Ningqi would kill it so decisively. A sliver of fear appeared in its eyes. With a miserable howl, it was turned into ashes by Ningqi and dissipated into the air. The cultivators of the Blood Abyssal clan subconsciously gulped when they saw this. Then, a few cultivators could not help but walk to the snake monarch emperor to check its current state. After a while, they nodded at the others, obviously agreeing with Ningqi's explanation. The clan leader's soul has been destroyed, but his body is still there. Perhaps there is a chance for him to develop a new consciousness in the future, Shi Yanxin thought. Leave him to me. A cold voice sounded from afar. Shi Yanxin and the others looked in the direction of the voice, and their bodies shook. They quickly cupped their hands and bowed. We greet Shi Lu, Venerable Python. They were pleasantly surprised. They did not expect Venerable Python, who had been in ectasis, to appear right after the snake monarch emperor died. He could take charge of the kindred situation. However, Shi Yanxin was a little worried. She was afraid that this Venerable Python would be controlled by the soul-devouring bug like the snake monarch emperor. After seeing Ningqi shake his head, Shi Yanxin heaved a sigh of relief. The person who came was a woman in red. From head to toe, there was not the slightest aura of a different species. She looked exactly like a human. Her appearance was excellent, but her expression was cold. She looked like an iceberg beauty. She slowly walked to the snake monarch emperor and lowered her head to look at him. Finally, her gaze fell on Ningqi, and she asked for his opinion. The snake monarch emperor is your clan leader. You don't have to ask me how you want to deal with him. Ningqi nodded lightly. Thank you. Shi Lu said expressionlessly. Ningqi smiled and did not say anything. From the aura of the woman, he could tell that her strength was a level higher than the snake monarch emperor. She was about the same level as the joyful demon Exalted, maybe even stronger than him. With a thought, a trace of Shi Li's soul left her body and entered the snake monarch emperor's body. The heavily injured snake monarch emperor slowly stood up from the ground and stood behind Shi Lu like a puppet. How should I address you? Shi Lu looked at Ning Qi and the corners of her mouth twitched. Is she smiling? It seems like. Ning Qi had a strange look on his face. It seemed like she had never smiled in her entire life. I am Ning Beixian. Ning Qi smiled. At that moment, Shi Yanxin's lips moved slightly. Shi Lu nodded and said to Ning Qi, Young Master Ning, the kindred will not be able to stay here as long as Yuan Venerate Heavenly Gu is alive. Therefore, I hope young Master Ning can bring us to a place where we can recuperate. Big brother, you are in luck. This is Venerable Python, an expert from my mother's era. Her seniority is even higher than the snake monarch emperors. Hu Qingzi said. Chapter 1814. I'm threatening you. All the cultivators of the blood abyssal race, including Shi Lu, entered Ning Qi's good fortune domain. This was a display of great sincerity. After all, this was equivalent to placing their weaknesses in front of Ning Qi. If Ning Qi wanted to, with just a thought, other than Shi Lu, the other cultivators of the blood abyssal race would be instantly suppressed to death. Several months after Ning Qi and Hu Qingzi left, the snake cultivators realized that there was no movement in the inner city. Even the cultivators guarding the city had disappeared. They mustered up their courage and went in to take a look, but they didn't find a single blood abyssal race cultivator. The entire blood python city was in chaos when this news spread. Some people fled the city out of fear because they didn't know what was going on. Some dared to plunder the cultivation resources that the blood python race didn't take with them and actually obtained some benefit. After another 3 to 5 months, this news spread throughout the 9 desolate. The royal families of the blood python desolates had all disappeared. Furthermore, the cultivators in various places didn't see any traces of the blood abyssal race cultivators. Many races started to suspect that the blood abyssal race had been exterminated overnight. You're letting them leave just like that? Shi Wuxue, who was standing beside Yuan Venerate Heavenly Gu, asked. Yuan Venerate Heavenly Gu was expressionless. I can't see through Ning Beixuan's background. I won't do anything that I'm not fully confident about. If I was at my peak. Ha, Shi Wuxue's eyes flashed coldly. Yuan Venerate Heavenly Gu didn't say anything. Dao Expansion Immortal City. Big brother, this is the legendary Dao Expansion Immortal City. Are you planning to arrange for the blood abyssal race to cultivate here? Hu Qingzi looked around curiously. The degree of prosperity of Dao Expansion Immortal City was countless times greater than the places she'd stayed in before. The streets were bustling with people, and the cries of vendors caused one to stop in their tracks out of curiosity. I'm here to do something. Ning Qi smiled. Not long after that, he led Hu Qing to a luxurious building. There was a huge horizontal inscribed board with a few big words written on it, Immortal King Purgatory Palace. You stay here and order whatever you want. Ning Qi arranged for Hu Qingzi to stay in a restaurant opposite Immortal King Pudu's palace. Then, he walked toward the palace. When the guards at the door saw Ning Qi walking straight toward them, they wanted to scold him. But they suddenly realized that Ning Qi's aura of creation was somewhat terrifying. It was even much stronger than that of their master, Immortal King Pudu. Senior, you are? A guard cautiously stepped forward and asked. Is Immortal King Pudu inside? Ning Qi laughed. The guard nodded. The Immortal King is receiving guests inside. If Senior wishes to see the Immortal King, you can report your name. I will go and inform him. Just say it's an old friend. Ning Qi said lightly. The guard revealed a troubled expression, but when he thought about how the other party's cultivation was much stronger than his celestial king, he didn't dare to say anything else and could only nod his head. Then, he turned around and discussed with his colleagues, and arranged for a guard to go and inform them of the situation. Ning Qi didn't have to wait long. Soon, the butler who had served Ning Chi before appeared again. When he saw Ning Chi, he was slightly startled, and a strange look appeared in his eyes. So, it's the North Mystic Immortal King. The butler smiled. Ning Chi had killed the immortal King Heng He and the others all those years ago, so the cultivators in Dao Development Immortal City were used to addressing Ning Chi as the North Mysterious Immortal King. Even though Ning Chi's cultivation hadn't attained the Immortal King realm at that time, so long as they watched the battle, no cultivator would doubt Ning Chi's combat strength. Take me to see Immortal King Pudu. Ning Chi smiled. North Mystic Immortal King, please. A strange look flashed in the butler's eyes, and he nodded with a smile. On the way, the butler tried to sound Ning Chi out. He deliberately asked Ning Chi about the delightful demon sex, wanted order out of curiosity. Ning Chi smiled and said nothing. North Mystic Immortal King, our Immortal King is inside, but he is talking to a guest at the moment. Please wait for a moment, North Mystic Immortal King. The butler said. Ning Chi smiled and ignored him, walking straight into the reception hall. Inside the reception hall, two figures noticed that someone was walking straight in, and they both turned to look at him. Ning Beixian, Immortal King Pudu narrowed his eyes slightly. When the other person saw Ning Chi, he looked slightly shocked, but an imperceptible killing intent flashed in his eyes. Ning Chi glanced at his attributes, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Immortal King, I have already told the North Mystic Immortal King that he is meeting a guest, but the North Mystic Immortal King. The butler followed closely into the hall and smiled bitterly at Immortal King Pudu. It's fine. You can leave now. Immortal King Pudu smiled and waved his hand. Yes. The butler turned and left. Before he left, he looked at Ning Chi with a hint of dissatisfaction in his eyes. Brother Ning, I thought you were busy running for your life. Why do you have time to come to my mansion today? As far as I know, a great elder of the delightful demon sect is visiting a friend in Dao Development Immortal City. Immortal King Pudu looked at Ning Chi with a faint smile. I have something to confirm, so I came to visit Immortal King Pudu while passing by. You must be Pill Saint Emerald Sea, right? You've been famous for a long time. Ning Chi's gaze fell on the guest of the North Mystic Immortal King. He was none other than Alchemy Venerable Blackwater's master, Pill Saint Emerald Sea. In the Alchemist Alliance, he was considered one of the Pill Saints with a high status, just below the Alchemy Emperor. Yes, I am Pill Saint Emerald Sea. I've heard about Commander North Mystic for a long time. I finally get to meet you today. Pill Saint Emerald Sea looked at Ning Chi indifferently. From the way he addressed Ning Chi, it was obvious that he did not like Ning Chi. He must be holding a grudge against Alchemy Venerable Blackwater for being turned into a dog-headed man by Ning Chi. Commander and Pill Saint. In the Alchemist Alliance, the latter was obviously much higher. Immortal King Pudu glanced at the two of them with a faint smile on his lips. Both of you are geniuses of the Alchemist Alliance. It's fate that we finally meet today. However, I'm very curious. What brings you here today, Brother Ning? Nothing much. I just want to know where Great Sage Profound Truth and Jian Shilai went after coming out of the Void Realm. Ning Chi smiled. Haven't I already told you about this? The two of them left Dao Development Immortal City on their own. As for where they went, I don't know either, Immortal King Pudu said indifferently. Immortal King Pudu, you only have one chance. Immortal King Pudu, you only have one chance. Ning Chi looked at him indifferently. As soon as he said that, the atmosphere in the hall became a little tense. Pill Saint Emerald Sea narrowed his eyes slightly. Was Ning Beixian threatening Immortal King Pudu? Brother Ning, are you threatening me? Immortal King Pudu frowned slightly. Yes, I am threatening you. I already know where Great Sage Profound Truth and the others went. I just want to confirm it. Immortal King Pudu, why don't you tell me? Chapter 1815. Ma Xinglong. Emerald Sea Alchemy Saint remained silent. When he saw that Ning Qi was directly threatening immortal King Pudu, he finally witnessed how arrogant Ning Beixian was. What I told you is the truth. Brother Ning asked me to be honest, but I really don't know what to say. If Brother Ning doesn't believe me, there's nothing I can do. Please go ahead, immortal King Pudu said lightly. Perhaps you will change your mind. Ning Qi smiled and walked straight toward immortal King Pudu. Are you planning to attack me in Dao Development Immortal City? I'm not someone like immortal King Heng He. Immortal King Pudu snorted coldly. The next moment, a terrifying aura rose from his body. He was a 7 Tribulation Master of Creation. Emerald Sea Alchemy Saint was slightly taken aback. A hint of shock flashed in his eyes. Everyone thought that immortal King Pudu was a 6 Tribulation Master of Creation. They didn't expect that he had secretly advanced to the 7 Tribulation Master of Creation. During this period, no one had heard of him. What do you think? Immortal King Pudu looked at Ning Qi with a faint smile. Brother Ning, the moment you came in, I'm afraid someone has already sent a message to the delightful demon sect. I advise you to leave Dao Development Immortal City as soon as possible. You still have a chance of survival. A 7 Tribulation Master of Creation. He is indeed much stronger than immortal King Heng He and his group. Ning Qi nodded. After a pause, the corners of Ning Qi's mouth curled up slightly, and a mocking look appeared in his eyes. His figure suddenly disappeared on the spot. When he reappeared, he was already in front of immortal King Pudu. A hint of shock and anger flashed in immortal King Pudu's eyes. This guy really dared to attack him here? Was he tired of living? A hint of mockery appeared in his eyes. A mighty power of creation swept out of his body, ready to suppress Ning Qi. Ning Beixian, you are too arrogant. A 7 Tribulation Master of Creation and a 6 Tribulation Master of Creation cannot be mentioned in the same breath. Before he could finish his words, immortal King Pudu was stunned. Then, an aura that was dozens of times more terrifying than him swept toward him like a wave. How was this possible? Puff! Boom! Alchemy Saint Emerald Sea crushed the armrest of his chair nervously. He stared at the scene in front of him with his mouth agape. The 7 Tribulation Creator, immortal King Pudu, was lying on the ground in a sorry state. The chair he was sitting on was also broken into pieces. Ning Qi stood next to immortal King Pudu and looked down at him. Well, so what if you are a 7 Tribulation Creator? Your cultivation, immortal King Pudu raised his head with difficulty and tried to get up, but Ning Qi stepped on his back again. The terrible force made immortal King Pudu spit out another mouthful of blood. With a loud bang, he fell to the ground. Outside, the butler heard the commotion inside and couldn't help but reveal a mocking smile. Ning Beixian, you definitely don't know that our immortal king has already broken through to become a 7 Tribulation Creator, right? Haha. Inside the hall. Where did Great Sage Profound Truth and the others go? Are you going to tell us? Ning Qi said lightly. Suddenly, his eyes fell on Alchemy Saint Emerald Sea. Alchemy Saint Emerald Sea, did I allow you to leave? Alchemy Saint Emerald Sea had already stood up from his chair, and was about to leave the place quietly. When he saw Ning Qi looking at him, a trace of fear appeared on his face. North Mystic Immortal King, the matter between you and immortal King Pudu has nothing to do with me. Haha, call me Commander. It sounds more intimate. Why are you calling me Immortal King? Ning Qi said sarcastically. A trace of embarrassment flashed in Alchemy Saint Emerald Sea's eyes. He didn't know how to answer Ning Qi. The main reason was that Ning Qi's method of suppressing immortal King Pudu in an instant made him feel extremely terrified. Being stepped on by Ning Qi, immortal King Pudu felt as if he was being crushed by 10,000 mountains. Even his bones were creaking. If Ning Qi continued to step on him for a while longer, He felt that all his bones and internal organs would be turned into minced meat. His heart was filled with shock and fear, and there was also a hint of confusion. How did Ning Qi's strength increase to such a level in just a few years? This must be the power of an eight tribulation creator. As long as I can by some time, the Grand Elder of the Joyful Demon sect will come here. With this thought in mind, Immortal King Pudu raised his head with difficulty. Ning Beixian, let's talk this out. Let me go first. I'll tell you what you want to know. That's right. I'm talking to you nicely. Why are you forcing me to attack you? Ning Qi smiled and withdrew his foot from Immortal King Pudu's back. Immortal King Pudu immediately let out a long sigh, and a crackling sound came from his body. He stood up from the ground in bewilderment. After a few moments of silence, he said in a low voice, I do know the whereabouts of great sage Xuanzhen and Jian Shilai, but this matter is of great importance. Even if I tell you, you won't be able to save them. Tell me. Ning Qi said indifferently. They are in the immortal prison. Immortal King Pudu said. After saying that, he noticed that Ning Qi didn't seem to be shocked at all. He immediately became bewildered. Could it be that what Ning Qi said earlier was true? He already knew the whereabouts of the two, and he came here just to confirm it? I already know that they are in the immortal prison. I just want to know why they were imprisoned there. I wonder if Immortal King Pudu can explain this to me? Ning Qi said indifferently. This matter, Immortal King Pudu looked hesitant. Suddenly, a black shadow appeared at the gate. When Immortal King Pudu saw this, a hint of joy appeared in his eyes. He looked at Ning Qi and said with a sneer, If I was in a good mood, I might tell you. But now I'm not in a good mood. Elder Ma, you're finally here. This is Ning Beixian, the wanted criminal of the Joyful Demon sect. He cupped his hands in the direction of the gate of the Pudu celestial dynasty. When Alchemy Saint Emerald Sea saw this, he immediately breathed a sigh of relief. There was also a hint of schadenfreude in his eyes. The Joyful Demon sect only had one great elder with the surname Ma Xinglong. He had cultivated for tens of thousands of years, and before he broke through to the creation realm, he was already an eight tribulation creator. What's going on? When the steward who followed Ma Xinglong into the hall saw that Immortal King Pudu was in a sorry state while Ning Qi didn't have a single wound on him, a hint of confusion appeared in his eyes. Ma Xinglong nodded at Immortal King Pudu, then glanced at Alchemy Saint Emerald Sea and finally at Ning Qi. You are Ning Beixian? Ning Qi looked at him, then at Immortal King Pudu. He immediately laughed and said, Yes, I am Ning Beixian. Hand over the Joyful Demon gourd and follow me back to the Joyful Demon sect to receive your punishment. Ma Xinglong said indifferently. It seems that you haven't received the news from the despair of death. Ning Qi sighed. What news? Why don't you tell me now? Ma Xinglong said indifferently. All the cultivators of your Joyful Demon sect in the despair of death are dead. Don't you know about this? Ning Qi said with a smile. Chapter 1816. It's true. If Elder Ma doesn't believe me, you can ask a few cultivators from the 9 desolations. Ning Qi said with a smile. Ma Xinglong was very close to him, so close that Ning Qi could kill him at any time. Impossible. Who dares to touch my Joyful Demon sect? You're lying. Ma Xinglong stared at Ning Qi as if trying to find a flaw in him. However, Ning Qi maintained a faint smile on his face and looked at him. Immortal King Pudu and Pill Saint Emerald Sea were also a little shocked. Immortal King Pudu had been to the realm of death before, so he knew how powerful the Joyful Demon sect was. They had 2 eight tribulation creators, and one of them, the great elder named Han Jian, was much stronger than Ma Xinglong. How could such a force be wiped out? Could it be that the other 6 sects had done it? Thinking of this, the two of them subconsciously looked at each other. The impact of this matter was too great. Today was the first time they had heard of this news, and it would not do them any good. Tell me, who dares to touch my joyful demon sect? Is it possible that even Han Jian is dead? Ma Xinglong said coldly. Yes, they're all dead. Not a single one is left. Ningqi said with a smile. Who is it? Ma Xinglong's expression gradually turned solemn. If this matter was true, it meant that at least one of the forces had targeted the joyful demon sect. However, Ma Xinglong couldn't figure it out. Would the other 6 sects just watch as the joyful demon sect was annihilated? Unlike Immortal King Pudu and Pill Saint Emerald Sea, he had never suspected the other 6 sects from the beginning. Unless they wanted to start a war, they would never do anything to the joyful demon sect. That person is me. Ningqi gave him a bright smile. Ma Xinglong was stunned. Then, anger surged in his eyes. Are you kidding me? Before his voice had died away, he threw a punch at Ningqi's head. He used all his strength in this punch. Obviously, he planned to kill Ningqi on the spot. The mighty power of creation spread all over his fist. When Immortal King Pudu saw this, he let out a sigh in his heart. If he was hit by this punch, even if he did not die, he would be severely injured. Ningqi smiled and threw a punch at Ma Xinglong's fist. With a loud bang, the 2 fists collided. Ma Xinglong was stunned for a moment and looked at his fist in disbelief. Hiss, how could this be? The other 3 people sucked in a breath of cold air as they looked at Ma Xinglong's arm in disbelief. They saw the flesh and blood on his fist falling to the ground, revealing the white bones within. Even his sleeves had turned into ashes. In the blink of an eye, his entire arm had turned into white bones. Then, the white bones turned into powder and floated to the ground. You! Ma Xinglong was shocked and angry. He wanted to retreat, but Ningqi stepped forward and said with a smile, Want to leave? Under Ma Xinglong's horrified gaze, Ningqi punched him 3 times in a row on the forehead, head, and stomach. The punches that were powerful enough to kill a 9 Tribulations creator landed on Ma Xinglong's body. The outcome was already decided. In front of everyone in the hall, his entire body turned into bones, just like his arm. Even his divine soul was shattered. It's your turn. Ningqi smiled and walked toward Immortal King Pudu, who was dumbfounded and had yet to come to his senses. I'll tell you everything. Immortal King Pudu came to his senses and looked at Ningqi in horror. He was sure that he was not dreaming. But how could Ning Beixian be so powerful that even an 8 Tribulations creator could not withstand a few punches from him? How was this possible? Pill Saint Emerald Sea and the steward stood rooted to the ground, dumbfounded. They looked at Ningqi with fear in their eyes. Tell me. Ningqi walked up to Immortal King Pudu and stopped in front of him. The great sage Xuanzhen and Jian Shilai were thrown into the immortal prison on the orders of the Dao Yen Celestial Lord. However, according to what I know, this matter is related to Yuan Venerate Songji. That's all I know. Oh yes, Yuan Venerate Songji knows divination technique. Brother Ning, this is all I know. I was just following orders from the beginning. Immortal King Pudu looked at Ningqi sincerely and said, Yuan Venerate Songji? Does this have anything to do with him? A cold glint flashed in Ningqi's eyes. Suddenly, he slapped Immortal King Pudu on the head. Alchemy Saint Emerald Sea and the steward watched in horror as Immortal King Pudu was turned into ashes by Ningqi's slap. Not even a trace of him was left behind. This scene was even more horrifying than the death of Ma Xinglong. You, the Immortal King, already told you everything, so why did you still kill him? Going back on your word? After recovering from the shock, the steward of Immortal King Purgatory's face was filled with grief and indignation. From the beginning to the end, did you hear me say that I wanted to spare his life? The corners of Ningqi's mouth curved up slightly, and there was a hint of mockery in his eyes. Commander Beixian, my disciple was reckless and offended you. I hope you can be magnanimous and put an end to this misunderstanding between us, okay? Alchemy Saint Emerald Sea took a deep breath and looked at Ning Qi sincerely, hoping that Ning Qi would believe his sincerity in resolving the feud. You wish. Ning Qi sneered. Alchemy Saint Emerald Sea's eyes were filled with terror. He quickly said, Commander Beixian, you and I belong to the Alchemist Alliance. The Alliance has a rule that forbids us from attacking our colleague. You, when your disciple violated this rule, didn't you discipline him properly? If the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. Ning Qi snorted coldly. With a thought, Alchemy Saint Emerald Sea's head exploded in an instant, and his headless body fell heavily to the ground. When the steward saw this, he let out a terrified howl. His body turned into a stream of light and flew out of the hall. However, before he could even touch the threshold, he fell heavily to the ground, and his head rolled far away. In the restaurant opposite the Kitagarba Immortal King Palace, Ning Qi walked to Hu Qingzi, who was eating and drinking, and said with a faint smile, The matter here is settled. Let's go. So fast? Hu Qingzi felt that he was not full yet, so he reluctantly left the restaurant with Ning Qi. Not long after they left Dao Development Immortal City, someone in the Kitagarba Immortal King Palace finally noticed something strange in the reception hall. Not long after, a group of guards appeared in the reception hall. The leader of the guards looked at the two corpses on the ground with a livid expression. The steward and Alchemy Saint Emerald Sea are dead. There's a pile of white powder here, and the Immortal King is nowhere to be seen. Quickly go and find the Immortal King. I'll go to the Dao Development Immortal Palace to send a message. The leader of the guards ordered his subordinates, then left the Kitagarba Immortal King Palace in a hurry and sped in the direction of the Dao Development Immortal Palace. As the matter was of great importance, he was slightly distracted and almost bumped into Immortal King Ox at the entrance of the Dao Development Immortal Palace. Why are you in such a hurry? What happened in the Kitagarba Immortal Palace? Chapter 1817. Emperor's Son, Immortal Emperor Ox Sovereign? The guard leader's face lit up with joy, and he quickly told him what had happened in Immortal King Pudu Palace in a low voice. Immortal King Nyo frowned slightly. 2 people from Immortal King Pudu Palace were killed, and Immortal King Pudu had disappeared. No matter how he looked at it, this matter was not as simple as it seemed. Take me there. Immortal King Ox said solemnly. In the reception hall of the Kitagarba Immortal King Palace, Immortal Emperor Nyo examined the 2 corpses and the pile of white bone dust. After that, he rose to his feet and walked around the reception hall. The guards of Immortal King Pudu Palace fixed their eyes on Immortal Emperor Nyo, hoping that he could find some clues. 3 people died. As for where Immortal King Pudu went, I don't know for the time being. Do you know who the 3rd person is? Immortal King Ox said faintly. Whether it was the housekeeper or the Emerald Sea Pill Saint, they were both dispensable figures in the eyes of Immortal King Bull. If they had died somewhere else, Immortal King Bull might not even have questioned them. However, Immortal King Pudu had always liked to keep a low profile. It was said that he had recently broken through to the 7 Tribulation Creator realm. If someone could kill his guests and his housekeeper in the reception hall without making any noise, it meant that the person who did it was most likely an 8 Tribulation Creator. Now that Immortal King Pudu had disappeared, Immortal King Bull guessed that he had been captured. No matter who the other party was, they didn't say anything in Dao Expansion Immortal City before making a move against an Immortal King that was conferred a title by the Dao Evolution Immortal Emperor, and this was something that Immortal King Ox couldn't tolerate. There's one more person. The guard leader was slightly startled. Suddenly, a thought flashed through his mind. Not long ago, a cultivator came to visit the Immortal King. The guard leader paused momentarily before furrowing his brows. However, this cultivator is most likely not the owner of this pile of bone dust, as he managed to leave the Immortal King Palace unscathed. Who is that cultivator? Immortal King Ox's eyes gradually turned cold. Ning Beixian, he's the wanted criminal of the Joyful Demon sect, the guard leader said. Ning Beixian? The Paragon Ox Immortal King was stunned for a moment. Then, his gaze became much more serious. Are you sure it's him? I'm sure. The butler has seen Ning Beixian with his own eyes, so he recognized him as soon as he arrived. The guard leader nodded. He came to Immortal King Kittigarba Palace without disguise. He didn't even hide his tracks when he left. This guy, Immortal King Ox thought for a moment and continued to ask, given your Immortal King Pudu's personality, since he knew it was Ning Beixian, there's no reason for him not to inform the Joyful Demon sect, right? A trace of hesitation flashed in the eyes of the guard leader, and then he nodded. We did indeed receive the manager's orders to notify Grand Elder Ma Xinglong, who's visiting a friend in Dao Expansion, Immortal City. Go see if Ma Xinglong is still in Dao Expansion, Immortal City. Immortal Emperor Niu Zun said calmly. His gaze landed on the pile of bone dust. His heart was filled with doubt. If his guess was right, was Ning Beixian's strength really so terrifying that he could even kill an 8 Tribulation creator? Before long, Pudu Immortal King Palace had sent out all their guards to search for Ma Xinglong. They even searched for his good friend, but no one knew where Ma Xinglong had gone. Can't find it. Immortal Emperor Niu Zun's eyes narrowed slightly, and then he sent out a message. Not long after, a young cultivator walked into the reception hall casually. When the guards of Pudu Immortal King Palace saw this young man, they knelt on the ground respectfully and did not even dare to raise their heads. Why are you looking for me? The young cultivator glanced at the corpse on the ground, and a trace of disdain flashed in his eyes. Divine Lord! Immortal Emperor Niu Zun bowed respectfully, and then he described everything that had happened here and his guess. Let me see. The young cultivator grabbed a handful of bone dust from the ground, rubbed it, and then put it under his nose to sniff it. In the end, he nodded and said, There's indeed the smell of Ma Xinglong. You're right, Ma Xinglong died here as well. Come, tell me about the background of that fellow who's wanted by the Joyful Demon sect. He's really interesting. He dared to kill the Grand Elder of the Joyful Demon sect in Dao Expansion Immortal City, the Immortal King personally conferred by Master, and the Pill Saint of the Alchemist Alliance. Haha, I haven't encountered such an interesting thing in a long time. I intend to investigate this matter personally. Netherworld Dao Celestial Dynasty. Perfected Immortal Underworld Dao Abode. This time, Ning Qi did not enter from the main entrance. He directly brought Hu Cheng to the courtyard where Meng Tianshu's aura was. Creak. The door slowly opened, and Meng Tianshu walked out of the room. He glanced at Hu Cheng, and then looked at Ning Qi with a smile. I've brought you the head you wanted. Have you prepared the thing I want? Ning Qi went straight to the point with a smile. So fast? I thought it would take at least a few hundred years. Devil Yi, did he really die in your hands? Meng Tianshu was slightly surprised. Ning Qi smiled. With a thought, the head of Devil Yi appeared in his hand. Devil Yi was not completely dead. As soon as he appeared, he immediately looked around. When he saw Meng Tianshu, he was instantly stunned, and his face was filled with extreme fear. Emperor Meng Tianshu's expression turned cold. A cold aura swept out from his body and sealed Devil Ye's mouth. Then, he took out a jade slip and took Devil Ye's head from Ning Qi's hand. Devil Ye's expression was twisted. When Ning Qi saw this, a trace of a smile appeared in his eyes. He first checked the jade slip's authenticity, and after confirming that it contained information about the underworld, he looked at Meng Tianshu with a faint smile and said, Sect Leader Meng, it seems that your position in the underworld is not simple. What position? Right now, I am just Meng Tianshu. Meng Tianshu smiled faintly. With a flip of his hand, he put away Devil Ye's head. Hu Cheng looked at Meng Tianshu suspiciously, and then looked at Ning Qi. He did not dare to believe it. Could it be that this person in front of him, who was not even a true immortal, was actually a cultivator of the underworld? How is this possible? Mother once said that cultivators of the underworld come and go without a trace. Even she is not sure if the underworld exists in this world. Although the transaction is over, I have something to ask sect leader Meng. Ning Qi smiled. Go ahead. Meng Tianshu nodded with a smile. Whether a person can go to the underworld depends not on their soul, but on their physical body. Ning Qi smiled. If you have enough cultivation, where can't you go? Meng Tianshu did not answer directly. Ning Qi got the answer he wanted. He smiled and took Hu Qingzi with him as he flew through the air. Meng Tianshu stood where he was for a moment, then took out Devil Ye's head. Emperor, I was wrong. I beg you, for the sake of our past relationship, spare me this once. Devil Ye looked at Meng Tianshu in fear and begged for mercy. Back then, I saw that you were loyal, so I brought you to this world with me. I never thought that you would sneak attack me. You must not have known that I was still alive, right? Chapter 1818. Chapter 1818. Chapter 1818 White Bone Villa Azure Dragon Continent. Mystic True Immortal Realm. Sisui Prefecture. Sai. Back when the Wang family offended the 9 Nether Demon sect, the entire Mystic True Celestial Realm was in a state of panic. All the cultivators didn't dare to show their faces as they were afraid that the cultivators of the 9 Nether Demon sect would kill the innocent in order to vent their anger. I didn't expect such a thing to happen again. I heard it's different this time. Didn't you notice that there are cultivators from the Joyous Demon sect everywhere in the Mystic True Immortal Realm? Apart from them, the Delightful Demon sect also brought dozens of subsidiary sections. They can be seen almost everywhere. Last time, a disciple of the Wang family accidentally killed an outer disciple of the 9 Serenities Demon sect. But this time, what happened this time? I just came out of seclusion. How did the profound true immortal realm become like this in the blink of an eye? Since the Wang family offended the Joyful Demon sect, they should have been exterminated long ago. You don't understand. This time, the Joyful Demon sect issued a wanted order, and the wanted cultivator is a genius of the Wang family. No, he's not actually a disciple of the Wang family, because his surname is Ning Beixian, the son of Wang Muting and Feng Jiu, grandson of ancestor Wang Lin, great-grandson of great sage Xianzhen. Some cultivators gasped in disbelief. If Ning Beixian really became a fugitive of the Joyful Demon sect, the Wang family would have been annihilated by now. I escaped the day the Wang family's ancestral city was sealed. In fact, the Wang family isn't weak at all. When the Delightful Demon sect made their move, I heard that a group of cultivators from the Wang family came as well. I think it's some alchemist alliance. Pill Emperor Subhoodie? I might not have heard their names clearly, but it's because of them that the Wang family wasn't directly killed. Are you sure it's Pill Emperor Subhoodie? A young cultivator holding the hand of a little girl walked up to the group of chatting cultivators and asked with a smile. The other party looked at the young cultivator warily. Seeing that he didn't look like a cultivator from the Joyous Demon sect or its affiliated sects, he nodded and said, "Yes." Suddenly, a group of cultivators walked over from afar. They all wore red and black robes with a white bone embroidered on the cuff. The leading cultivator looked very young, about 18 or 19 years old, but he emitted a terrifying aura. The cultivators nearby made way when they saw them because they were from the White Bone Villa, a subsidiary sect of the Joyful Demon sect. The entire Sisui prefecture was basically under the control of the White Bone Villa, and many innocent cultivators had died in their hands. One had to know that in the entire Azure Dragon continent, other than the Wong family, which seemed to have a master of creation, the strongest powerhouse in the other places was only at the Transcendence Realm perfected, which was already a great sage. However, any one of these cultivators from the central mainland was a master of creation. Mystic true immortal realm cultivators naturally didn't dare to offend them. What were you guys talking about just now? The group of cultivators that were chatting just now had already retreated to the side, waiting for the White Bone Villa cultivators to walk past. They didn't expect them to stop directly in front of them. The leading young cultivator with a cold expression asked directly. His eyes swept across the group like a poisonous snake, and finally stopped on the young cultivator holding the hand of the little girl for about 3 breaths of time. As senior, we were just chatting casually just now. We didn't say anything. The group trembled in fear. Didn't say anything? I think I heard you guys talking about the Joyous Demon Sect and Ning Beixian? Do you guys know where Ning Beixian is? He's a wanted criminal of the Joyous Demon Sect. Who knows where he is? Maybe he can be accepted by the Joyous Demon Sect as an outer sect disciple. This is a great opportunity for you guys, the leading cultivator said with a faint smile. The group was shocked and quickly waved their hand. Anyone who dared to have anything to do with Ning Beixian would definitely end up with a broken body. You really don't know? All right then. The leading cultivator smiled and turned around to leave with the group. Before the group of cultivators could heave a sigh of relief, they suddenly stopped and slowly turned around. The nearby cultivators immediately showed a trace of pity in their eyes. The group of cultivators had obviously been targeted by the White Bone Villa. Even if they didn't die today, they would at least be skinned alive. You guys look unfamiliar. Have you just arrived? The leading cultivator looked at the 2 figures indifferently. When the group saw this, their eyes suddenly flashed with a trace of realization. So the White Bone Villa's targets were these 2 strangers. Yes, we've just arrived. Ning Qi smiled faintly and nodded. Look at you guys, you look like spies. Could it be that Ning Beixian sent you guys? Come with us. The leading cultivator smiled and then signaled his subordinate. His subordinates understood and 3 of them walked towards Hu Qingzi, while only one walked towards Ning Qi. Wait, what makes you say that we're spies? Hu Qingzi frowned. If I say you're a spy, then you're a spy. Hee, you smell so good. It's like the smell of a fox. The leading cultivator looked at Hu Qingzi with a smile. Zhu Zi, so you're his target. Ning Qi smiled. How dare you? Your White Bone Villa is just a small sect in the central mainland. You don't even have a 3 tribulation creator in your sect. Why would the Joyous Demon Sect bring trash like you to the mystic true celestial realm? I think you're a subsidiary sect of the Joyous Demon Sect. In other words, you're just a small fry, right? Hu Qingzi sneered. The 2 cultivators who were walking toward him were startled and stopped in their tracks in bewilderment. When the surrounding cultivators heard Hu Qingzi's words, their faces immediately revealed a trace of shock. They stared at Hu Qingzi, dumbfounded. This little girl was too bold. She knew that the other party was a cultivator from the White Bone Villa, but she still dared to insult him. Wasn't she courting death? Who exactly are you? The leading cultivator stared at Hu Qingzi. Hu Qingzi of the Heavenly Fox Valley. Hu Qingzi said calmly. Heavenly Fox Valley? Could it be the Heavenly Fox Valley of the 9 Desolations regions? The other party was shocked and looked at Hu Qingzi with a trace of disbelief. The Heavenly Fox Valley was a force comparable to the 7 great sections. Why would they appear in such a remote and desolate place where no creator would want to stay for long? At least you have some knowledge. Hu Qingzi sneered. So what if it's the Heavenly Fox Valley? The prodigy of the Joyous Demon Sect is in the mystic true celestial realm. I think you're indeed a spy. Suppress these 2 and bring them back for questioning. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.